Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to Resident Retrospect. I think, is this the first time live streaming it since we changed the name to that?
Probably.
I think it might be. Idea. That was rather recent, because, yeah, we changed...
What's it called before?
It was Resident Recap, but now the proper recaps are Resident Recap.
This is the Resident Recap.
Yeah. This is,
something like
you know, Resident Talks or whatever.
This is Resident Recap's pre-recap.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, live touchdown plays something. So, yeah, we're here to discuss the fifth and most recent story arc of Resident Roleplay. And that's about it. So we've got the four of us here, and which I guess everyone could see. You got Lauren, Mel, Salty Doc Chauncey.
That guy.
Mm-hmm.
The peanut.
Yeah, the peanut.
See, you guys are going way off. I was actually going with Resident Evil's that guy.
No, yeah, you are that guy.
I am that guy.
Speaking of being that guy, I guess to dive right into the happenings of this last arc, or I guess as usual, can kind of follow our format of just going through talking about each episode kind of chronologically. The first episode of this arc was the 50th episode, which is half of 100. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, son.
And that was titled Old Houses and New Mansions. There was a lot that was going on in that episode, actually. But first off, we started in the new manor that Chauncey had just acquired at the end of the last arc.
Yeah,
and you're
boy.
getting all sorts of briefings and stuff. And let's see, what all happened in there? It was a bunch of obviously recapping of what you guys had done over your downtime. And then... also, there was that surprise sequence where you raided Emil's house as well.
Yeah, and then it freaking got airstruck.
It did get airstruck. Yeah.
Was that the first? Was that the first one?
Yeah, that was during the downtime, basically. It was in the middle of recapping the downtime. We just kind of threw that in there.
Okay, I thought it was another episode that we were there.
No, yeah, that was that one. And that was, I suppose, the first time, the first combat of this arc. You guys had, you were up against that team of Plaga, sort of Ganado types, led by Emil's old comrade.
Yeah,
Eddie Lopez. Yeah.
Eddie. Yeah.
So, I guess... what was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I guess it's kind of... well, I guess you might have inferred this a little bit, but this kind of would have sort of been basically Emil's personal arc if he was still around. Just because his, I guess, characters from his backstory are so front and center throughout this arc.
I was actually going to ask what all kind of changes were made to the narrative, seeing as a lot of the main characters are no longer there.
Yeah,
not the main characters, but the original characters, I mean.
Yeah, there's definitely some changes there. Obviously, Emil being out of the mix makes a huge difference for this particular arc. Obviously, the reaction would have been really different, like if it was Emil, you know, meeting Eddie Lopez, working for the Manifold, or Scott Moeller and all that. Well, we got to play out a little bit of his reaction to Scott Moeller with that audio log. But yeah, and a whole bunch of stuff I don't think I could talk about yet. And definitely Archaea being out of the mix definitely changes things up. But that being said, you guys did manage to kill Eddie Lopez in that encounter.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, which was which was something.
I just remember running people over.
You did run people over. Yeah. And yeah, and I get so you ran a bunch of people over, killed Eddie Lopez, which actually, I think I've mentioned this before, did bring him out of, if you didn't kill him there, he would have been in that lineup on the beach when you guys met the whole crew. So yeah, there was that.
Did that happen? What was the I guess the time frame between when we killed him there in the beach. The beach happened afterwards?
Yeah, that was after Atlantis, which we're going to get to in a sec.
Oh, man. I feel like that was so long ago.
Yeah, I know. It all kind of blends together if you go back far enough. And I'm going like way far back when working on these recaps now too. It's kind of weird trying to piece together the order of events, you know. But thankfully, I've just got all my notes and everything to go off of, and then looking at the playback of all the episodes. It's pretty interesting. Although I'm getting like that syndrome where the further I go along in the recaps, like the more I'm going off of memory, because it was just like, oh yeah, that was recent enough. I remember how that went down.
So, like, if we were going off of memory, I totally thought like the story arc started a lot later.
No,
just saying, like I was pretty sure there was later events where I was, and I'll mention it whenever it comes time. But it's like I thought that's when the story arc started.
No, yeah, this was all basically the prologue to the arc. So yeah, you guys took out Eddie Lopez, and then Emil's house got bombarded. And that actually, I'll say, I think I had you make a perception check. I had somebody make a perception check to see if they could hear what Eddie Lopez, I think, was saying into his comms. And I don't think
you only got bits.
Yeah, you got bits. I think you got the scorched earth part.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing really that you were just missing was, I guess that would have been the first introduction of the name Sphinx. At that point, was he would have been calling that into Sphinx, who's sort of running their comms like you saw on the beach.
Tech guy.
Yeah, tech guy.
If you would have dropped like Scorpion or something, that would have dropped hints for later in the future as well.
Yeah, that could have, but I don't think Scorpion would have necessarily been relevant there. Yeah. Now, Scorpion is an interesting point because that came from Mr. G's backstory. Well, not even your backstory. What was it?
That was so I guess I can talk about this.
Yes, so we can talk about this because this is knowledge you had going in.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of characters that have come up from Mr. G existing. This was a mission log that I wrote for XP, for I guess what do you call it? Downtime XP? No, the
absentee,
absentee, like side character XP at one point. I wrote a mission log where Mr. G was getting information from some mafia goons in Italy, and they were being bodyguarded by a extremely not well off, but like extremely just really good bodyguard. By the name of Scorpion. And I didn't know anything about Scorpion. All I did was in the mission log just write in like, Scorpion's here, gotta figure out how to subvert Scorpion. And I wrote this whole like encounter of like, you know, it's like, okay, I think I figured it out, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna enact my plan. I kill somebody and it's like, oh shit, that was a Scorpion somewhere else. And then I nearly get my head taken off by Scorpion and I'm like, Scorpion's got away with it this time. And then I thought that was the entirety of all I was gonna have with Scorpion. I was like, okay, there's like some random person somewhere.
Yeah, that was like just like a code name you gave them, basically.
I knew nothing about them. I was like, okay, Scorpion's there. Like I completed my mission. I interrogated some mobsters, and then like that was the entirety of the mission log. And then later on, I hear Scorpion again. I was like, oh no, I don't even hear Scorpion. You say,
yeah, I think what happened was so.
Yeah.
First off, we had like a bit of a teaser, like flash forward in episode 50 to later events, and then you guys go through all that. We reintroduce all the characters. Chauncey gets the mission briefing for Atlantis, and then the next couple episodes you guys spend in Atlantis. So let's talk about Atlantis real quick. So in Atlantis, you guys arrive at the ruins of Terra Grigia, and or at least nearby to it. And to, I guess, rescue the team that Nuria was on at the time with the scientists who are researching the Mediterranean after the T-Abyss virus got unleashed all up in it. So you guys went down to the Atlantis facility. And that was an interesting thing. I think I talked about this a little bit at the time, how I did a lot of research for Atlantis, because that was an area that I'd been prepping for a long time at that point. And yeah, I don't know why I felt the need to do a lot of research to try and portray an underwater habitat as believably as possible. I think part of the reason was when I started just like superficially looking into it, it's like, has something like this ever been done before? And I realized that underwater habitats are very real things. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh man, I feel like an obligation now to try and at least have some measure of, you know, scientific believability about it. And actually that, I think I pointed this out to you, Lauren, the picture you used in the thumbnail, that underwater habitat there, was one of the ones that I researched in and used as kind of like modeled a lot of the specs after. I think, well, at least it looks like it. I think that's the Aquarius reef base.
Yeah, I think it was, because you told me and I was like, yep, that's the one that I picked, because like I literally just put in some like basic keywords for underwater. I didn't use underwater habitats. I don't remember what my keywords were, but that's the first thing that came up, and I was like, well, I guess this is the closest I'm gonna get. Got to find a good angle of it until I just searched that until I found a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it makes for a neat little thumbnail. Did you add the submersible in there, or is that what that's supposed to be?
Yeah, there's a little submersible going down. I was like, well, because I always try to add something to the thumbnails that's, you know, not just a straight up photo. There's a couple of thumbnails that are just straight up photos, but I tried to add something. So that one I added the submersible of us going down. Okay. The little vehicle, our first interaction with vehicular.
Yeah, really. There was a lot of vehicles in this in this arc. All of a sudden, it felt like. But yeah, I guess on the beach is technically when you guys first met Scorpion, although not as Scorpion. You met her as Agent Cartwright, and
that was the thing, because like nobody would have known anything about that when we were in the base, and you're like, oh yeah, you see this tattoo on her neck, and I was like, oh sweet, tattoos. I've got tattoos. I'm gonna check out this tattoo, and then it's like a scorpion. And I was like, that, you know, cue the Kill Bill.
Yeah, the Kill Bill siren.
It's like, I was like, oh no, he didn't.
Yeah.
Because like, there's no reason for anyone else to believe that was anybody. But I was like, oh shit, that's Scorpion. Mm-hmm. I know who that is.
Yeah.
And so then I was like trying to get close to her and trying to like do all this weird stuff. Like,
yeah, you're being a little coy.
Kevin was, or Troy was in the chat that Hayden was like, oh man, you know, Mr. G's hitting on her. I was like, that's definitely what I'm doing. I'm about to put a hit on her.
I was kind of hoping Chauncey would have ended up seeing the tattoo, and then he could talk about his Panther tattoo.
See, I think that I was the one who noticed it originally.
Was it? Was it Chauncey?
And I totally forgot that I had a Panther tattoo. Oh. No, I'm pretty sure it was me, because like,
I don't remember.
I don't remember how it was, but I think you told me to roll for perception, and I did, and you were like, you noticed this on her neck, and that was just like as far as I took it. Like, oh, okay.
I think I had both of you roll for perception, both Mr. G and Chauncey. I think you're both close enough.
No, this was like in the facility though.
Yeah.
This was when we had already gone under.
Okay, and this is you noticed then.
Yeah. Well, I think I had you both roll at the same time. It was in the same instance, but yeah.
Yeah, because I was just like, yeah, man, that doesn't sound very agent-like, and that's when it started brewing in my head. Was like, this isn't the person that I'm thinking. We're thinking it as a team is supposed to be. So I kept my distance on it, and that's why like later on I was just like, yeah, give me a quick profile of this character.
Oh yeah, I knew exactly who it was as soon as I saw the tattoo.
Yeah. But yeah, so you guys, I guess, fought a bunch more Tiabissus. I got to bring those out for a little bit more.
Cleaned them up pretty quick.
Yeah, that was easy peasy. It wasn't designed to be a very difficult dungeon crawl, so to speak.
That was still part of like the not downtime, but that was still like a lot of prequel stuff before we even got. Well, yeah,
again, I think that Atlantis was meant to be like the opening sequence of this whole arc. So it was just a little couple episode sort of area to fight your way through, and it was pretty neat because I wanted to mess around a little bit with having, you know, some exploration to it, you know, with this hazardous environment and some like non-combat considerations of what to do, you know, between swimming out into the waters and all that and trying to figure out different ways to navigate around that environment. I also did have some random encounters to roll as well. That's when those little fishies started attacking you guys when you guys were swimming around. Yeah,
or guppies, I mean.
Mm-hmm. And I think I triggered the encounter, but kept swimming.
Not me. That's not my job.
Oh, hey, we got Kakikori in chat too.
Hey, Kaki.
Yo.
But
I totally forgot to put pop up. I don't need it.
Yeah, I mean those little guppies didn't do too much though. They were just all nibbling at you guys while you were running around.
Actually, I think at that point, Mr. G, my tattoos weren't revealed yet. So I think I was at the point where I was like, I'm still not swimming.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no interaction with anything outside the whole of the.
That's true. That's
habitat.
true.
Yeah, you stayed downstairs, and I think Lisa's character stayed downstairs as well.
Yep.
And it was me, Katara, swimming up.
I was like, I don't swim.
Neri was there as well. Yeah, Neri was there, so we all swam up.
Yeah, and then I guess also there was obviously got to reunite with Nuria, and we kind of had guest characters pretty consistently throughout this arc. Well, I didn't know at first that Peanut was gonna be leaving the cast because that was sort of something that came about spontaneously in the middle of it. So originally, like, that was going to be like the main guest appearance, was bringing back Nuria for Atlantis, and obviously that was set up a while ago. So, but yeah, she ended up, I guess, getting a lot more screen time, which I guess at this point we're just gonna again have that kind of rotation of guests and have everybody, the entire roster, kind of coming in and out regularly. But yeah, so you guys made short work of the oozes, also made short work of the Ultimate Abyss boss, although I'm kind of sad I didn't get to use as many of his capabilities as I would have liked. But who knows, you guys may see another one. The T-Biss is still around.
It is. There's a lot of things that are still around.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of things are still around.
Theoretically speaking, yeah.
Good. You go.
It's like, theoretically speaking, the BSAA are near constantly at work, seeing as every game introduces a new virus that it's not like you can eradicate a weapon.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean,
like
yeah,
every time they introduce a new virus, those weapons are are in circulation on the black market.
Yeah, well, and because there's like years between any given game too.
Yeah.
So it's assumed it's like these guys have, this is a full-time job, so it's assumed they're working on something like just lesser noteworthy stories that aren't as noteworthy in between, like always going on constantly, you know, either busting people or trying to sell bioweapons or fighting little tiny outbreaks. I guess they have a lot of
regular military duty stuff where it's like, well, you know, weapon spotted in this area, got to go check it out and all that other stuff. And they've added
a bunch of stuff to the canon of some of like these smaller events, like through the comic books and you know, and things of that nature. And musical, apparently.
Wait, Resident Evil the musical?
Yeah, there's a Biohazard stage musical in Japan.
Wow. Well, yeah, I guess you said Japan. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true, and it's Biohazard, not Resident Evil.
Yeah, not the more appropriate name.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you guys made short work of the Ultimate Abyss and then made your way out. You also got ambushed by the I believe it's called the Malakota on your way out with the when you're running with the submersible.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
I thought it was the Kraken.
Yeah, I know. Everyone just sort of took to informally calling it a Kraken.
That's what it is. We don't know what
that was That was the first time, even though we didn't know it was Scorpion, but we saw fear in those eyes.
Yeah. I love that collective just like, moment.
Even she was like, no!
Yep, G and Scorpion are just like, let's leave, and then just immediately pedal to the metal.
Yeah, just like
Temporary alliance.
punch it, Scotty. Yeah. That was a great little moment. Whatever happened to that thing, by the way? Did anybody like put in a report or a ticket to the BSAA about that thing?
It would have come up in the freaking.
I wasn't going back to fight it.
I think it's one of those things. I think it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, exactly. Just leave it for someone else. It's someone else's job. Just report it, put it in the debrief. It's like, yeah, there's something down there. Just prep a missile at some point. just in case.
Just torpedo
if it shows up again. If some, we'll be prepared. But no, we're not touching that. That's for another time.
I kind of just assume that after every encounter and we leave an area, that the BSAA just like nukes it, just in case they survive.
That's Chauncey's BSAA.
Yeah, there's like
that's what happens.
an internal BSAA lingo. They call it the Clancy policy.
Yep.
he
Whenever you
was
got
there, he came back injured. Blow it up.
I mean, but if you nuke like the Malakota, will it just become like Godzilla?
Ooh.
Just an even bigger kaiju.
They used one of those oxygen bombs. Like they use them, guys. That's
There you go. Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, if you guys are just like, so I was gonna say, if you left that thing, it's probably still swimming around. I don't know.
Nobody's going out there. It's just ruins of buildings.
That's true.
In the water. Jesus, Atlantis.
But
Dirty that place up.
yeah, so after you escape from that thing, and I suppose that was all in the same episode, you guys fighting the Ultimate Abyss, and then dodging the Malakota, and then getting to the beach. And that was a long episode. I think that ended up going pretty long. And because when you guys get to the beach, then you have another combat encounter in the same episode of facing the sort of manifold officers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty interesting series of events. It was kind of neat to see all the, I guess, everybody sort of gradually figuring things out, and obviously like Chauncey was just like man of action, took the first shot. Although I think you said Mr. G wanted to take the first shot.
Well, it was that kind of thing where since I already knew who the character was.
Mm-hmm.
Internally, I was like, all right, as soon as something happens, I'm going to shoot her. But I didn't say that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end of it.
Well, I mean, like you said it out loud that if you shoot, I'm shooting, kind of thing, but like out of character. It wasn't like Mr. G's like, if you shoot her, so am I.
Tara just saw a helicopter and said, all right, fine.
Yeah. So, and then I guess that led to that whole moment where with the lineup moment, which I'm not sure. I think I might have told you guys about this. Like I made that battle map the day of.
Really?
I wasn't sure if I was gonna need it, but I'm glad I made it because that came in handy. That was a very tactical fight. We needed to be counting spaces there. And it was a massive map too. You guys used a pretty large breadth of it. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting little scenario. We got to bust out all 5 of those officers and I guess introduce a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led to a pretty awesome combat encounter in my opinion. That was a interesting one to play out. It was super.
First one we lost.
Yeah, first one you guys really had like a major defeat, so to speak. And it was super intensive to run on my end. Like I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many moving parts. So that was quite sophisticated. But what did you guys think of that particular encounter? I guess what was your sort of thought process and all that?
Abandonment. That's how I felt, abandoned. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but like we're all busting our ass. Here goes the other character just running for
yeah, Sarah just running off.
Yeah, it was like that That was an oof.
And like I was about to like use my feature of being captain.
Oh, you're gonna try and command to like tell her to just like turn back and that problem.
But I went down. I was like, no, this is my time.
I think you have still yet to use that feature too.
Every time I try to use it, I get denied somehow. It's like, no, this makes no sense. I want to use it. I've been trying so hard to use it every single time. It's like, nope, denied. You're down. Nope, denied. You're not within range.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think I used it once. I did use it once. The very first time I got it, I think I used it once, and it was not this story arc, but it was the story arc before. Whenever I was in the hotel, I think we were clearing a hotel. I thought I used it.
No, I remember
it was one of those. It was one of those where I was fighting with my team, as it is to clear out a whole hotel.
Oh yeah, when you're using
already. I was I was clearing the hunters out of that hotel, and I was pretty much just leading the whole fight anyhow.
No, I think this was that was at the beginning of this arc. I think when we cut back to Chauncey in the very first episode of this arc, you were just with your team, just clearing out a building.
Yeah. Okay. So this is why I said I'm completely lost on my arc.
Yeah. No, it's all good. But yeah.
So yeah, that coming in the future, I get to try to use it once as well. Oh, so many times. Yeah, I'm a failure at being a useful captain. I just fight for myself at that point.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if you get any more. Well, I guess you will probably have a lot more opportunities for some
I'm hoping
captain-like conduct next arc.
I'm hoping.
So, but yeah, that was a pretty intensive battle. And pretty. I guess that was one of the few combat encounters that I felt like could have gone any number of ways. You know, like it was pretty neck and neck for a while there. And I think, I guess sort of from a, I guess, encounter design perspective, it was pretty interesting because obviously you guys were very much outmatched there. I don't think you were outnumbered at that point, but you were definitely.
Well, it depends. How many people were in the combat versus how many people were in combat?
Yeah, but I think like in total, I think it was like similar numbers of people.
I mean, like the numbers, but
yeah,
the people fighting on our side was very slim. We had one poor girl we saved from the Atlantis.
She died instantly.
Oh yeah, she died
instantly. And then we had Neria, which was low level, trying to help, and we were all trying to do it. But I think technically we were outnumbered.
Yeah. I feel like
by sheer force,
Nuria definitely got traumatized there with just like making friends with someone over the course of the time she spent there, and then just watching them just get killed instantly.
Mm-hmm. It happens.
Yeah, it happens in Resident Evil. But yeah, like it was. So I think like overall, like challenge wise, you guys were definitely outmatched. These were some pretty difficult enemies, and there was a lot of them. So, but I guess the interesting thing narratively about that was I realized, early on, I was like, well, I think the solution to having like all of them there at once, if I want to have a big epic enemy party versus friendly party moment, is to make them very objective oriented, which I guess you guys kind of were as well. It was this whole juggling act with the virus, right? They were just there to get the virus and get out. So, and yeah, so they kind of had that focus of just shooting for the virus and trying to take that off your hands and then escaping.
We weren't letting that happen.
Well, I man, looking back on that fight, there was a lot of stuff because G had the virus for a good while. But oh man, there was some stuff looking back at that fight that I wish I could have, or like I guess the more optimal solution.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's always going to be, I guess, a more optimal solution that you realize in hindsight.
Yeah, but I feel like there was a couple of things where I was like, man, we would have won if that didn't if I just gave it to Chauncey. that's like at some point.
I was down.
No,
I got my ass
before
beat.
that. That was before that. That was when you were at low health. Because here's why. Because Mr. G, you were gonna go down the next round. I think is what I'm thinking about specifically is Mr. G has the thing, and I leave the submersible, and I have it in my hand. I'm next to you and Nuria, and I was like, I can't give it to Nuria because she gonna die.
Yeah.
And I was like,
also super squishy.
I have just exactly. I was like, I have just enough health that if the Reaper, what's his name, not the Reaper, the Ronin.
Oh yeah.
Misses one attack, I'll survive. And then he hits every attack. And then I was like, it's just enough to put me down. I was like, dang it. And there it goes. I was like, if I just gave it to Chauncey, he would have killed you, and then I would have taken it off your body and had an entire another round to get it away from you.
The worst part was like we were immobile in the water pretty much. Like we were struggling to get out of the water.
That's true.
Where he was able to get in.
Yeah, it wasn't like a whole ambush thing.
Back out. It's like, it sucks. Like, how are you treading water, Jesus? Like, come on, man. Like he was across that water faster than people trying to speed run across water. It was crazy.
Well,
like,
yeah,
also,
that creature had a lot of movement, just generally speaking.
Yeah.
And I realized in that encounter, because that was my first time, like, really playing most of them in combat, and I was like, dang, I think I inadvertently, like, this wasn't by design, but they ended up being a very hypermobile party, except for the Sphinx, but he just stuck in the back. So
he was on the helicopter.
Sure.
He was on the helicopter, right?
Yeah, he stuck in the back, and then Mr. G shot him once, and then he went and shot himself in the helicopter.
I don't want to take his head off.
Yeah,
like the thing that that hurt me worse that I would have asked to have changed would have been the fact of knowing that Scott was a brawler class.
Oh yeah, because you got all up in his grill.
Had he been shooter, I'd have wrecked him. I would have wrecked him. But no, he throws his gun down, punches me in the face. 1-2, I'm out.
No, one of my favorite moments in that whole encounter, I don't know why, it just cracks me up. I think it was just like you guys just acting it out on the cams. Was when he like throws down his guns and like gets up, it puts up his guard, and Chauncey was just like, oh yeah, let's go. And then he just like bop bop, just punches you twice. And I think I remember somebody commented just like, oh, I wasn't ready. It was basically Chauncey's reaction.
It was me. Like, wait, I wasn't ready for this. Okay. And he swung twice more and killed me. Like, oh, I wasn't ready.
Just like got punch drunk immediately.
Oh, it's so sad. It's like I went up there just with the assumption, like when I first looked at this group against our group, I was like, okay, this person's for this person, this person's for this one, so on. We all had like an alternate version of ourselves we're about to fight, and I was like, oh, he's gonna get wrecked. So I just ran up to him to get him, and no, I was wrong. He's kind of my alternate personality, but he knows how to throw a punch. A couple of them in a quick succession knocked me down. Just floating in the water, me and G just floating around. Oh, it was so terrible. And then I remember like getting up just in time to try to take a shot, but the helicopter already took him and left him. I was like, no, my opportunity is gone. So I feel like I would have.
Well, I think you got up and tried, and then you got frozen too.
Yeah, something like that. Something happened that caused me not to be able to take my shot, and like I was going to headshot the vial and just destroy the virus. Was what I was gonna do. That was my game plan at the end. Whenever I knew we weren't winning, I was like, just destroy it. I don't even care if it goes in the ocean. They're not getting it. That was all I cared about.
Yeah, man. If you like, that would have been a viable option. You would have done it.
Yeah.
I was frozen. Oh yeah, I was a Chauncey Berg.
You were Chauncey Berg. But yeah, so we got Ilo here now. You want to weigh in on what that fight was like from your perspective?
It's fine.
What?
Quiet.
What? Quiet?
It was
Quiet.
What's happening?
We're trying to listen to what you're saying, but you're telling us to be quiet while we're being quiet. You can't be any quieter.
I said what fight?
This what we're talking. We're talking about the beach fight.
Manifold.
Yeah, where you fought all the manifold officers on the beach.
Just frustrated that my cryo sprays went to no cryo sprays. My cryo formulas went to waste.
Oh, you got Chauncey.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She was the one that froze me. I couldn't remember. Yeah, because it had like an area effect. And I was just like, just use it. And it froze nobody but me. I was so sad.
And then let us remember that in front of there, Scott just looked at you and was like, "I give you mercy for later."
Yeah, I was so hoping
right there.
If he punched Chauncey while he was frozen, it was
He would have
game
shattered.
over.
Yeah, no, he
Well,
would have died.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he would have died because I think let me see what the condition says specifically.
For frozen, because for frozen condition, if you get hit by anything that's bludgeoning and or explosive or something, it's like you just explode.
Yeah, but
You're
I
done.
think it's specifically if you die to it, not if you drop to 0 hit points.
Ah, that's true. We're players.
Yeah, your player character, so he would
We're
get death
players.
saves. But if he killed him on death saves while he was frozen, then he would shatter. Because he was
I keep on.
yeah, he was evolved
forgetting.
too, so he had the explosive damage fists. So
Yeah,
you
I
would
keep
have
on-
just been like, pow.
I keep on forgetting that that's different when it comes to player characters.
Yeah, because if it was an enemy, dropping to 0 hit points and dying are usually synonymous. So
But also, I had the ride armor at the time too, so that would have negated the bludgeoning part.
But he didn't do
bludgeoning.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, if he did,
Yes,
bludgeoning.
it's fair. But yeah, I was so hoping when he let you walk away, because like Scott has this whole, I guess, sort of warrior spirit complex going on, and that was definitely a thing where it was like, he wasn't gonna fight a popsicle. He was like he's the kind of guy that feels like that would say more about him. But I was so hoping you're going to get a rematch with him later in Johannesburg. But unfortunately, the plans kind of changed, and that didn't end up happening since Chauncey wasn't around on that part. But that was sort of the intent. But that would have been pretty neat. But still, I think we ended up getting good closure with him, even so.
Yeah.
He got wrecked in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
After destroying an entire local militia.
Yeah.
That's true. He wrecked all of the Section 3 losers, and then just like, well, I guess they unleashed that Ouroboros, and that changed everything.
Just a little.
When I saw those damage rolls going out to hit him, I was like, yeah, so that's one thing we're not fighting. Especially with those two. I'm gonna run tonight.
You got your running shoes on.
Yeah, I'm out tonight.
Yeah.
But using the, or I guess the Ouroboros like tentacle creature or whatever to like, I guess just infight was probably like, I want to say probably one of the smartest and most tactical things that like really helped.
Yeah, I mean, you guys pulled off the positioning well enough that I think it didn't really get aggroed on you guys too much at any point. Well, I mean, it ended up attacking like some of your squishier members, like Kevin. Kevin and his sister Sarah ended up having to face it a little bit, but Kevin just skedaddled after a while.
Kevin was like, no.
Yeah.
Yep. The correct answer.
That's the correct answer. Yes.
The only correct answer.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get to that point to talk in great detail in a moment. But immediately after the beach fight, you guys got your butts kicked, which was a pretty interesting and humbling experience for this particular party. It was kind of...
Gina was still new at the time.
Yeah, that's true. it was kind of neat narratively to kind of see you guys meet your match. And I never ended up posting this, but at the time, I think right after that session, Matt Koval, GM guru extraordinaire, released I think it was a campaign diary where he was talking about, I guess having an enemy party, sort of group of characters. And I was like, he was talking about the sort of appeal of doing that, and he was specifically talking about designing it for his campaign that he live streams. And yeah, there was that was very interesting because
Some parallels.
Yeah, it was he was talking about the sort of appeal about doing that kind of thing and those kinds of encounters, and I was like, no, this is it. Like, he gets it. I mean, he gets GMing in general. He's very knowledgeable on that front, but yeah, the way he explained it, I think, was like the best and most articulate way of explaining what the appeal
Why
is.
you do that.
Yeah, and why you set up an enemy party. Because him, like a lot of GMs, he points out with his campaign, the Chain of Acheron, it's proper D&D 5e, and he's like, no, yeah, player characters get super OP super fast. He also,
Especially if you throw items at him.
yeah, he also throws a lot of items at his players, and I like that one bit. I was watching him design his enemy party, and there's somebody in chat was like, oh, well, don't you worry about power creep with giving all your players better items. He was like, oh yeah, you know what I think about power creep? And he's just like freaking plus 12 or something on one of the enemy party members. He's like, yeah, that's how I handle it. It's just like, that's fair. But yeah, I might post that video somewhere if I could relocate it, because I think specifically with the timestamp, since I think it was in the middle of a long video, but to sort of point it out. But yeah, that was a super fun encounter to put together. So after you guys get wrecked, I think we had another big time jump after that.
Yeah, because that was the end of the intro of the first arc.
Yeah, basically the end of the opening sequence.
Because we had the that flash forward, the Atlantis bit, and then the super flash forward to the Atlantis bit, to the guy, turns out to be Lennox, our Atlantis, and then we caught up with. And then Lennox.
You catch up to modern times, essentially.
I think this party got wrecked twice, honestly.
What will the other time be? Let me see.
The other time was with the Dawn.
That's
Chauncey
true.
was just getting beat down, and Guitar is just watching. Like, we lost that one too.
That's true. When Emil betrayed the party at the same time too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was less like the party losing and more like the party like fighting itself.
That was more like execute
like
Order
the
66 sort of
party
situation.
shatter.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was just like a whole
was...
bunch of bad stuff converging at the same time.
Like, it's still weird to think that Atlantis was part of this arc, because it feels like it was so long ago.
Yeah, that's what Doc was just saying. It was just like, yeah, you got it was a bit of a lengthy one. Wasn't the longest arc we've had so far. I think it was like 4 episodes short of it.
Time amount.
Yeah, that too. It covered a lot of narrative ground in terms of the duration of.
Yeah, because there was like a lots of time jump, and like there was a whole bunch of little stories inside the one big story, and that's I think.
Yeah, it kind of stretches it out.
Back in Raccoon City, but we were still in one huge setting. That's why it seemed this one had a lot more time into it.
That's true, because in Raccoon City you were going from one thing to the next, and it was just like just constantly flowing together, whereas this is just like a bunch of jumps of a bunch of separate stories. So yeah, fast forward, I think a few months or to a year. I can't remember exactly how long it was off the top of my head, but you jump forward a bit, and Sean turns up in the hospital in England, and
washes up in the hospital.
Well, he washes up in Canada, and then they transfer him back to England after a close encounter with the Manifold. And then we had a little like smaller, I guess more intimate episode of I think it was just Peanut and Lauren in that episode, where Sean's basically explaining what he just went through and giving a bunch of exposition, essentially giving an exposition dump on what's to come. So, and sort of talking about the Manifold's plans that he discovered to start gathering all the viruses themselves, and what specifically is on their hit list. And that kind of led to basically the main thrust of this arc, which was you guys trying to beat them to the punch and hunting down all the viruses that they're after.
Mm-hmm.
So that was essentially a bunch of exposition. I don't know if there's anything you guys would want to talk about there. Wasn't too much to it.
No, that was just getting all the, I guess, the next targets.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that was getting us a baseline storyline to work off of at that point. But,
yeah.
Okay. So now it's clicking. The earlier sequence I was talking about where I was in a hotel, it was not a hotel, it was an apartment building, and it was the story arc before, because I was on the beach with Allie, got called in, and we all had our separate cold opens.
Yeah.
And that was the one where I swore that I used the captain feature the first time.
Yeah, I don't remember if you did. That was still this arc though, because you started out on the beach in that first episode, is what it was. Yeah, with the cold opens. So yeah, that would have been still in episode 50.
I remember Raph going like, "Why did you use it? Like that was designed. Like this scenario was designed for you to use it."
I swore I used it once with PGP, and then that was like, it wasn't really like necessary because I was pretty much leading the whole group down anyways. So I was already giving them commands like, all right, you guys go here, 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 and here. So I was still having the feature, but not.
Yeah, like I think you didn't use the specific mechanic.
Actually, the full-on mechanic I couldn't use.
Yeah, the mechanic essentially just
don't
like
know what yours does.
Yeah.
Secrets. Secrets.
One of these
I don't
days.
even know what it does. It involves reading, and I don't do that.
Well, anyway, after hearing from Sean, you guys kind of acquired your first target in Tokyo, going for the T. Veronica virus. And, well, I guess then there's... Yeah, that was the thing. I guess in the first leg of that journey, you guys put yourselves up in that hotel and had that whole encounter with Scorpion. So I think that's the big thing to talk about there. I guess any particular thoughts on how that went down?
She got straight murked.
Yeah, she got kind of capped. I gotta admit that was pretty hardcore when Mr. G just straight walks up to her and just pops a cap.
Sticks the gun in her back.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's all the things. Like whenever Mr. G straight up assassinates someone, it's always, I feel like, pretty brutal.
I seem to remember something else killing her, though.
Well, yeah, it's true, but...
Oh, it's so good. I was so upset that we didn't get to learn till the next episode.
Yeah. Mr. G did most of the damage, though, for sure.
Oh, I for sure give it to him, but I did the kill shot.
Yeah. You stopped her heart.
With bad eyesight, I was the one who took her down.
A double natural 20 through the wall.
That was insane.
What did you get that shot?
Oh, that's so good.
The rules definitely knew what was going on. Well, I talked about this a bit at the time. That was one of those situations, like an inverse Murphy's Law sort of thing, where everything that could have gone right in your favor there went right. All of the rules were there.
The fight.
Yeah, after you guys got your butt kicked, you're just like, oh, hey, you by yourself? And
no, a Katara.
yeah. Because the roles were perfect. I think with the way you guys stealthed into that bar, I think she saw literally everyone but Mr. G coming into the room. So that perfectly set up for Mr. G to be able to just assassinate her. And then I think Mr. G rolled just well enough to see her as well, to spot her going in. Like it was like exactly enough for you to get to see her and not get seen. And then she has that whole, I guess, dialogue with Katara, which
I feel like we're brushing over that dialogue right now. That was some good dialogue.
Yeah, that was an interesting dramatic moment. Obviously after because she got, there was a moment that sets that up in Atlantis when you realize, because like when you thought she was still BSAA and then she sees Katara doing evolved stuff. She's just like, oh
yeah.
and now all of a sudden, you know, once she gets rid of that disguise and goes back to the manifold, and she has like a big chunk of time to prepare. She's like, okay, I know how to prepare against these guys, or at least she thought she did. She thought she had it safe there, had it foolproof.
And she died.
You're a fool.
Can't prepare for Mr. G's wacky backstory. She's like, oh yeah, I get Mr. G. I get this character. I understand who this is. Nope, you
Prepare
don't.
for Katara's literal
What?
Literal what?
her literal bitchness.
Oh. Yeah, just she couldn't have accounted for how much Katara didn't care.
Yeah, no, the guitar. This gives you power over me. Okay. Just and the thing is, she knew Mr. G was just waiting.
Yeah, well, I
She's
think
just there like.
Only thing I was waiting for was to see if Katara was like, yes or no.
Yeah, would capitulate. I mean, I think you told me too separately that was like the key ingredient, was you weren't going to do anything if Katara, depending on how Katara was reacting. Yeah. But like you said, as soon as she was like, nah, you're like, all right, Scorpion's dying tonight.
That was like my entire, like the only thought that happened was when Katara's like, and you think this gives you power over me? I was like, she's dead. That woman's not walking out of this alive.
Yeah, you were just like, there's nothing holding me back now.
And then my first time using an assault rifle.
Oh yeah,
20.
you freaking yeah. Like I said, all the rules were there. It was such a perfect storm of just like, nope, it's time for her to die.
Nope.
I can't even remember what exactly Chauncey said, but I do remember at first he was just in the bar to make sure shit didn't like go down bad, because this was like where I was taking my leave.
In the middle of a bunch of civvies too.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden shit goes down. I'm like, no, not now.
Yeah, this isn't the mission.
This isn't the mission. I'm just charging through people, taking over the mission. Like, no, guys, this is what we came to do.
No, yeah, I could totally picture Chauncey's just hand waving as he's running through the room. His hands just like flailing about, just like, no.
Kermit the
Like
Frog.
that's the thing too. Right, just like, ah! Like Mr. G was like, this has always been the mission, because like his thing is, he just like his mission is to kill to stop the manifold, and basically to him that means kill them. So he's like, if I have an opportunity, he's like, you know, when somebody says take care of it, he's like, all right, I'm gonna kill him. that's like you know, his only option. So as soon as like, you know, she was going to die, I was like, all right, this is well within the rights, or not the rights, but well within like the mission parameters. She's dying tonight.
Yeah.
Mr. G's mission parameters anyways.
I only came just prepared enough to finish her off, though. Like, I didn't have my Batman grapple to go follow her up on that roof. I was screwed. Like, there's nothing else I can do.
Yeah. I still can't believe he just blind shotted her twice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like it was just I think it was just within my view or just outside of my view too, and I had disadvantage or something on it, and I still hit it. I can't remember.
I think you did something to negate the disadvantage. There was something, I don't remember. So there was something that made them just straight rolls, but you made two straight rolls and they were both nat 20s.
Yeah.
Which means if you had disadvantage, you would have still rolled a nat 20.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It was ridiculous.
And then, like, you left us on that hanger, man. I was so sad. I was like, oh, no, you can't tell me she's not dead. Then it dawned on us right at the end. I was like, wait, there's still a girl upstairs that's on our team that can just look down on the roof.
Yeah.
What's your report? Shit going down at the bar. Oh, so bad. Yeah, it was a good time though. Like we definitely did business. Now, my question to you though is, was that set up for the fight? Did you know that we were going to end up fighting her?
I was not necessarily expecting a fight to break out in the middle of that bar. And I mean, even then, it wasn't much of a fight, but it was just like I did enough setup where it was just like, yeah, she's got some what do you call it? Yeah, she has an exit plan. She has a contingency, you know, where she's got like her snipers on the other rooftop. You know, she's positioned herself in the middle of a bunch of civvies, you know, and she's got this blackmail on top. I was like, oh yeah, that should be enough to convince them otherwise.
That only works for people who care.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Not for this group. This group breaks all the rules.
Yeah. Which I guess there just ended up being a lot of civilian casualties in Tokyo in general, especially after she unleashed. She also had that secondary layer, or like, not even secondary at that point. She had like 5 layers of protection because she also threatened to unleash that BOW on the city, and you guys still went through with it. So, yeah, man, that was an interesting time. But like you said, I guess it was pretty cathartic after getting your butts kicked the last time. You guys kind of needed that victory.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just continued.
Yeah.
Oh,
But at what cost? But
You
also,
lost Chauncey.
their lives.
You guys lost Chauncey for a few days.
yeah. Which, yeah, it's true. After we came back, it was actually a pretty short period of events. Pretty short time span that the rest of the arc took place over. It was just like a couple of days back to back. And that was the thing too, was immediately after the session where you guys killed Scorpion, I actually I rolled to see. I was like, okay, she wasn't bluffing, so how long is it gonna take before her the sort of dead man switch goes through, that, you know, her contact has to wait before he leaks basically all the information. Like, when was the last time she talked to him? It could have been at, you know, at any sort of point. So I figured it's like, all right, I'll give her like, we'll say she you know, renews that sort of contact like once a week. So I was like, okay, it could be 7 days at most. So I think I rolled 2d4 minus 1, and that was the number of days it took before the Katara's secrets leaked to the press. And that ended up being after the amount of time that it took you guys to finish the rest of the content. So that's why we just sort of appended it onto the end there. Because I think I rolled a decent amount. It ended up being like 6 days or something like that you guys had. So it didn't end up being a factor in the middle of the arc, which would have changed the dynamic a bit.
Yeah.
Which I think I recorded too. I recorded myself rolling that just for posterity, so I could probably post that at some point.
Is that what you were saying? You said like, I'm gonna record this roll just to make sure that it's like.
I think I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, you've done it a couple times. There's one time in particular that I'm still waiting for the outcome.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. We know. We all know.
I don't remember that one. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
Which one?
Like the most important saved roll of somebody's possible life. Somebody in particulars. You still don't know. Like,
nope.
Like no animal, beast, nothing.
Oh, right, that
one.
Yeah,
I forgot about him too.
What was that?
Don't worry, I forgot about him too for a while.
I mean, like, I still have that. That one I took a photo of. So it's out there. The truth is out there.
It's like our or is it anti-hero or anti-villain? Like he's our good bad guy, and that's like the team background. Good bad guy, yeah, anti-hero.
Yeah, I guess
he's
definitely
not good
classic.
enough to be the hero, but he's still crazy enough to root for him. Yeah, keep him going.
Yeah. Which I think I've also forgot to note this earlier when talking about that encounter on the beach, but that was probably, one of that encounter probably had one of the biggest scares in regards to near TPK on my end, though. Like looking at the numbers, which was specifically, I think Katara started attacking their mode of transportation with her grenade launcher, and I was like, there's definitely a moment where I realized, shoot, if she successfully destroys that, then the ground party would have like nothing left to do except fight you guys. And that made me worry because I think the math just wasn't there that you guys were gonna survive.
Submarine.
Tara almost
That's
killed
true,
us.
but there was a bomb in that submarine too.
They were the ones that put it there.
Yeah.
They would know. Hey, we'll just go for a while in the sub and then we'll blow it up.
Oh yeah, I thought you were saying you guys take the submarine. I was gonna say that would have been.
No.
Yeah,
If we blew up their helicopter, they could have easily taken the submarine.
it's
and
true.
left us
It's
behind,
true.
too.
But yeah, that was definitely a bit of a scare. That could have potentially been been pretty bad when they were all together. Because when they're all together, pretty potent. But nonetheless,
If my crier bomb actually worked, we might have a chance.
you might have had. Yeah, I think there was definitely a chance that you could have perhaps, I think, killed one of them in that encounter, if you guys
Spence.
focused enough. Yes, yeah. If you guys
Spence would have been annihilated.
he was super squishy. But I think aside from him, like everybody else was still triple digits by the end of that fight. But yeah, definitely if you guys bum rush Sphinx, like if you just, that would have been sad. But if you guys just all ran back to that helicopter, it's just like, well, there would have been nothing he could do.
He's sitting in the back like, oh, it's okay, everybody, I'm behind the front lines.
I always think
The front
about
lines
like
came to me.
how that could have gone so much differently. Like if we would have handed them the virus and just like said, "All right, go on with your day," and then they all would have gotten back in, and then Katara would have fired the grenade launcher at that moment, like right after. Like, hey, you're not leaving with that though.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of different ways it could have gone. I think the reason why I didn't make a battle map on that part was because I was kind of like, I was basically in my head, because that was a sequence that had been in my head for a long time. So, and I was like, and it was neat seeing it finally come to fruition and seeing it being such like so positively received. But I think definitely in most of the versions that I conceived of it, I had imagined it being a dialogue scene. Then we got to the day of the session, and I'm like,
It's a fight.
yeah, I was like, my players, they're not gonna make this a dialogue scene. I better prepare a battle map just in case.
We
And
don't
definitely
like
need
to
it.
talk. We don't kill.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I did. But yeah, so after you guys took out Scorpion, I guess there's the episode after where you had to fight the U3, which I think that was
The one that broke up in the
Yeah.
Tokyo.
I love that thumbnail too for that one. It blends super well in that particular scene.
I'm trying to remember. I wasn't in this one, right?
Yeah,
So I just-
Chauncey,
at that point, I
that
just
was
went walking around Tokyo. I was like, "I'm gonna take the sights in, guys."
well, we ended up. Well, I guess you weren't in that session, yeah. But I ended up changing it up so it's just like that Chauncey basically had to put out the fires, like the PR fires, and do like all the diplomacy with the locals and representing the BSAA there. He still ended up getting to take his walk at the end of it, but that was after a few hours.
Yeah, at least I got to go for a walk.
But yeah, I think that one was mostly a combat encounter episode, pretty straightforward. And then there was that interesting conversation in the car ride up to the Oshiro Manor, where you, I think they definitely got to hear the party talk and sort of, I guess, put into perspective a lot of the things they just sort of been through.
Which one was that?
It was the dialogue on the car ride up to the manor after you guys beat U3. Yeah. I thought there was some pretty interesting dialogue in there.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. But then in the next episode, you guys finally get to the manor and you meet Hiroki Oshiro, and I'm trying to remember what all happened in that one because those two episodes after kind of blend together for me. But I think in that one, you guys got down to the vault.
I don't know episodes. I just know what happened.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys. You guys got down to the vault and wiped the floor with Scorpion's remaining crew, and then I think the episode after was just closure on that after all the bloodshed. So that was quite interesting.
Well, and then I assimilated them.
You did assimilate them. That was very unexpected, but a very interesting turn of events that has kind of, I guess, still has had a pretty big impact because you're basically running Scorpion's network now.
Mm-hmm. Someone's got to pick up the slack.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was fun, just sort of trying to figure out and put together the little mini museum in that manner, and just populate that with weird little items, and also introduce the what's the rifle called? The Muramasa. Yes, thank you. Which I think was like the first legendary weapon of the campaign, really.
It's insane, man.
Yeah, that thing has served you pretty well. So, yeah, and then ended up getting to give you guys that as a reward, because that was the thing. There was different ways that could have gone.
I was gonna take it anyways.
I'm sure you would have
if we didn't.
But yeah, there was definitely different ways that could have gone, depending on how amicable you ended things with, Oshiro, because he was a very definitely resourceful person, and I was like, man, if he ends this basically, indebted to you guys, he can pay out, which it ended up being the case, and you guys ended up rescuing his daughter from, getting her life-saving virus stolen.
Does he also owe me again? Because like I've or like owe us again, since like I did this whole like thing where like the community at large now thinks that the virus that he has is now missing.
Oh yeah, your whole misinformation campaign. Yeah, I mean he definitely feels quite indebted to you guys. Which, yeah, that was pretty interesting little sequence. There were definitely a lot of things that inspired some of the visuals of like that vault with like the the hospital bed type thing in the middle of it. I was obviously it kind of reminded me a bit of like just visually like that great shot from Inception when they get to the very end of the dream. And also I guess I took a little bit of inspiration from, because there's a similar circumstance in Resident Evil lore that this kind of, I guess not parallels, but is similar to, which was this little known character, I think from Dark Side Chronicles, Manuela Hidalgo, who basically had a similar sort of thing. Like she was receiving the T. Veronica virus as a medical treatment in order to, or rather she was getting like transplants in order to sustain being infected with the T. Veronica virus is what it was. And so like her father was like this big drug lord who dealt with bioweapons in South America, and I think the story was basically that like she had like a incurable condition that he was using the T. Veronica virus to treat. But the T. Veronica virus has some very interesting aspects in that like it basically slowly kills its host. Yeah, if not like taken under specific circumstances. Like Alexia Ashford, I think the way she subverted it was she put herself in cryo sleep for a whole bunch of years to like let her body like gradually adapt to it without getting consumed. And I think with Manuela, her dad was shady cartel guy, so he just like kidnapped a bunch of people and just harvested their organs and just gave her a bunch of transplants.
Yeah, seems about right.
Yeah. So
your average day.
Yeah, basically. But anyway, so I guess after you guys took care of business in Tokyo, and after Mr. G assimilated Scorpion's crew, you guys headed out to Johannesburg. And well, I guess there was a little bit of downtime, I think, in between there. You guys took like a day or two to make some arrangements, restock on your gear, and
oh yeah, just like
I think that was at the point where we teased Mario Feliciano, where you guys heard rumor that he'd returned to the States
with his two big ass bodyguards.
yeah, and
his two big ass bodyguards.
Yeah, that had wrecked a couple of dock workers on their way out.
I was literally just thinking, just like
regular, just like real big Italian dudes, just like real big break your kneecaps types. No, not even close.
The more like crush your heads types. Which I'm not sure if I've seen. I can't recall if in the Resident Evil 2 remake that has since come out. I can't remember if the Mr. X Tyrants can still do that head crushing move that they did in the original game.
Or they just kind of bring their hands up above their head and just swing, go down.
No. The one where they like grab you by the head and lift you off the ground with one hand and then just like squish.
I don't remember. I think there is an animation where if you do get grabbed at low health, you're dead.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think they do that.
Because I think that was just like a one shot in the original game, where it's just like if you get grabbed by that, you're toast. Although I know for a fact in this this Project Resistance game, I think I've seen the Mr. X Tyrant do it in that. Well, that's kind of separate. But anyway, yeah. So that was when you guys first found out about them, and then Chauncey stayed behind to hold down the fort at Camp Clancy. And then you guys headed to Johannesburg. So you guys, I guess, messed around with the underground black market a bit, and eventually found your way to Section 3 and their sort of warehouse. There's definitely a lot of different ways that could have gone as well. I wasn't sure. I was prepared for a couple of different scenarios. There's one battle map actually that didn't get used. Really? That was a sort of just in case, because I was like, yeah, because I was like, there's so many different ways you could do it. You ended up going the route, I think, of stalking them back to their warehouse to find out where it was, and then just going for that directly. But there was also that thing where it's just like I was like, okay, maybe you could have ended up like just ambushing them right out in Retha's hovel in the middle of the slum area. So I did have a battle map ready of like a general like Retha's hovel area in case like a firefight or something breaks out there, or in case they spot you following them or something like that. That could have led to some scenarios. But I think you guys rolled well enough that never ended up becoming the case. But yeah, so then when you guys made your way to the Section 3 warehouse, there was a whole cluster of events that happened there.
I forget. Wait, real quick. G was stalking them in the car that I stole. Where was everyone else doing? Oh no, they were at the shop.
Yeah, they were at the
I was gonna say like
the gun guy. Man,
I wish I was there for that first part because yeah.
That was also, I think, the first time you guys saw a. Wait, no, it wasn't. You guys saw Meta Red Oracle Solutions guy and in Tokyo as well.
Sure, but he was the head of security for.
Yeah, the Oshiro Manor. Yeah, that was a neat little integration. I gotta admit, I like having that around. Because that was something, I guess we could talk a little bit more detail about that. That was something, Lauren, you created, I think, for First Degree, for your miniseries.
Yep, one of the player characters was from that faction.
Yeah, the Red Oracle Solutions. What was that?
Faction?
The Red Oracle Solutions? Which I don't think that name ever came up during the role play of First Degree, though.
No.
Yeah, like, but there was, but you'd thought of it for that, and after that, when we decided that First Degree was definitely Resident Roleplay canon, you sent me over like a document, or at least a write-up on what all the different factions you invented for that miniseries were.
It was basically like, because everybody worked for something, so I was like, okay, the mercenary company you work for is Red Oracle Solutions, and that was like the basic like in gist of it. So like if the character brings it up, they have a name for who they work for as a mercenary company, because they're mercs, so like they're hired out by somebody. I love the aesthetic and like the logo and everything, so I was like, I'm just gonna throw, if you guys meet mercenaries, it's like it's neat to kind of have that and have that little reference there. What was that?
Steal this real quick.
Well, Lauren invited me to steal it, so it's okay.
So I'm gonna have to go.
Okay, you gotta bounce?
Yeah, I gotta bounce.
All right. Well, we'll see you later.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later.
All right.
See ya.
But yeah, so yeah, I guess you want to talk about where your head was sort of at in the section 3 sort of cluster.
Like, real
Man, I just
quick,
wanted to kill everyone.
the Fight Club happened before that or after that?
That was before that, yeah.
On that Fight Club, Katara.
That's true. That's true. Katara wrecked.
Time for your discipline.
Oh yeah, which you made a great fan art for that. Yeah, that was.
You always have like those nice fan arts for random events.
Yeah, just like those little sketches that you do.
Yeah, I should try to do more of those.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, yeah, we had that whole just like undisputed Fight Club little section in the middle there. Then Katara wrecked Sarah and the reigning champion.
What was his name? Like the something dragon?
Yeah, it was let me pull up my notes real quick. It was his name was Tommy, but they called him the Destroyer, I think is what it was. Yeah, Tommy the Destroyer Edgar.
Wait, no, that was the first guy.
No, that was the champion.
Wasn't his name the something dragon or dragon something?
He had a dragon tattoo.
Oh no, okay, so he that wasn't his name. That was just
Yeah, that was just the tattoo.
So
I wanted that guy so badly.
I want to jump in real quick about that whole boxing setup, the whole Fight Club thing. Had Chauncey known that was gonna go, had I known that was gonna go down, I would have kept Chauncey in, because like I tell a bunch of people about the character. Like I've asked Ilo like numerous times, like, just give me like one ripped version of Chauncey where he has like no shirt on. That would have been the perfect moment to just like rip it, like tone dad bod, like and just with that panther tattoo and just like punch the shit out of something. But like he's not the brawler class, but I still think I would have come out on top.
No, yeah.
No, I mean, the brawler class is just the best at it.
Yeah. But like that, I felt like when I listened to that moment, I was like, this was meant for me to be there. Like, this is my redemption right here. From the iceberg fight. I knew it. And like now that I'm like listening to it again, it's like, yeah, because I wasn't there. It wasn't like fresh in my mind. But yeah, this was what I was meant to do, and I wasn't there to do it.
Yeah,
so sad.
There was definitely, because that was definitely conceived a long while back, and I knew there was definitely going to be, there was a couple of characters that was kind of geared towards that I knew would be great for. I knew Chauncey would have definitely done it if he was there. That's just a natural, but just like, yeah, pretty much any of like the martial class type characters could have done decent in the ring. Obviously, like with Chauncey, right? Like you don't have like the proficiency or anything in the unarmed fighting, but still, just with soldier features, you'd be good at it. You still have multiple attacks. You still have action surge. You still have plenty of stuff to do there. So
I have proficiency with like improvised weapons too. I would have improvised using. Yeah, I think that's what I have is improvised weaponry, like a proficiency with it. So I would have used his fist on his own face if I had to.
I don't know if that would have worked.
I'd have grabbed him by the elbow and the wrist and just jammed it in his face. Like, take it. Like there's so many things. Like I was sitting there thinking about how Chauncey would have done this whole situation. Like I'm a street fighter at heart. I'll use you as your own weapon.
Stop hitting yourself.
Yeah. And just imagine how jacked up that whole sequence would have been if I would have been able to grab him by the elbow and the wrist and make himself punch himself. And it's just it happens like that. Like whenever I'm not there, it's like, man, this has been a perfect opportunity, because I always feel like my character is a serious character, but like he's also like the huge comic relief in a sense, because like a lot of people get like a laugh out of everything that I throw at him. Like I throw him into some of the baddest situations, and he still comes out. He's like, oh, here he comes, jumping and smacking off poles and shit. I can picture it being happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been something. I could you just show up, just start doing some lucha libre like top ring stuff. Or top rope.
Wearing a panther mask.
Yeah.
Jumping off the freaking like cage.
Like I want that to be a thing, and I've said it. I'm saying it now publicly. Is I want a part driven off of just Chauncey ripping his shirt off and armor off and just going straight flesh to flesh against somebody, like just beating the shit out of something. It may not happen the way I want it to, but I kind of want that moment at some point.
I mean, it's in Johannesburg now. You know where the fight ring is at. Your people reported it to you.
Yep.
Well, I mean, like,
I'm still looking to own it.
I want to be the big bad, though. I want to throw down with the big bad.
You just want to just go mano a mano with Walker or something.
Yep. Put me up against Wesker. I don't care if I win. I just want to do it.
Yeah. Well, again, you can always head back. That area is still there.
Maybe that's what I'm doing on my break.
Chelsea's just like, yeah, I gotta head to Johannesburg for some BSAA stuff. Meanwhile,
gather more intel.
Yeah. Just
a
like
couple black eyes.
That's how you spend your vacations now. This is like, oh, screw the beach. There's a fight club over there.
Yeah, fight club. But I mean, like, if I was to go with Allie, wouldn't I be putting my money on Allie winning the fights? Because that's what she's supposed to do.
Is Allie a brawler?
Yeah,
No, she's brute.
I thought she was brawler.
No, she was brute.
Isn't that the same thing? You just punch stuff harder.
Well,
no,
you take less damage.
Punches.
Yeah. Yeah, you basically get rage. So, yeah, she would just be able to last a bit longer, but wouldn't necessarily fare any better than you. I think you probably have better stats too. So, with striking.
Mm-hmm.
Just remind me that, like, whenever we're not talking about the story arc currently, and we're starting to talk about the next story arc, that I have some ideas. Dude, just now brewing. So just remind me that I have ideas.
I know, just like all up in the Discord. I know everyone's like, we know what to do. Like just talking about what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, there's definitely been I guess for public consumption, there's definitely been some discussion about this next arc, and I just sent a whole pitch document to the players and talking about the possibilities that I'm shooting for, and I think everybody's getting their creative juices flowing now. Is just like thinking about what they want to do in it. It's going to be interesting though. Next arc's going to be pretty unique. But yeah, I guess getting back into the chronology, the Section 3 warehouse was a bit of a big moment, which I guess a moment that stretched across like 3 different episodes of just like one continuous train of thought.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Yeah, that was the right row mess. There was definitely
that was a train wreck of everything. Like everybody's plans went wrong.
Yeah, there's definitely a moment.
Nobody came out on top.
There's definitely a moment when I was designing that encounter where I was just like, how much is too much? Just thinking just like purely narratively of what all was happening there. Because basically that warehouse was like the convergence of so many different factions and storylines all gunning for the same objective. So yeah, because there was a little bit of that. It was basically like there were Section 3 who are like these small time black market dealers who had the virus. Then there was
apparently super small time. There
was you all representing the BSAA who was trying to intercept the virus. there was the Manifold who was trying to get it, and then there was Tricell who was trying to get it back, and all just kind of converging at the same time.
Did we get the name Tricell?
No, you did not.
Okay.
That was when my internet was messing up, so I missed a lot of the fight, and I was so sad.
Oh,
No.
you probably just
It's
mostly
on,
met.
Wait, how did Vernon? Wait, Vernon's dead. How did he get chilled? What's going on?
Oh no, yeah. There was a lot going on in those couple episodes. It was basically like, it felt to me like a genuine like 3-episode long combat encounter. Like, it feels like that's like the closest we've seen to something like that, you know? Like, it was all derivative of the same encounter, but it was just stretched out.
Yeah, it was like one long extended, like single combat encounter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just like all that came together. You guys actually managed to sit out a fair portion of like the initial slaughter.
On purpose.
Yeah, very, very deliberately so.
Not gonna waste bullets on that.
Yeah, and then I guess you're trading bullets with. I guess we could talk a little bit now about Jill Valentine showing up.
That's the thing, because I was like, is she supposed to be here?
Yeah.
Or just somebody who's inspired by Jill Valentine?
No, so she was here representing Tricell, because this would have been while she was working for Wesker, or at least mind controlled by Wesker. So this was just basically one of the missions she got sent on, was just like to retrieve the Ouroboros virus back from these jerks who stole it from them. And yeah, you guys very specifically didn't get any names. You didn't get any, obviously, because that would just like mess with canon a little bit too much. If you guys got the name, either got the name Jill, I don't think anyone was there who would have recognized her anyway, even if you saw her face, or if you got the name Tricell, because at this point Tricell is a very legitimate company still. It doesn't, I guess the events of Resident Evil 5 will happen over the course of this next hiatus.
Yeah. Well, because this is right before Ouroboros breaks down in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
This was like the first sighting of Ouroboros in Africa.
Basically. Different part of Africa, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, it's still like, before it becomes an epidemic, this is like the first, I guess, it shows up now.
Well, it never really became an epidemic. It was Plaga that was being spread wide in Africa.
That's true, because it was just there to be testing and stuff.
Yeah. Ouroboros was tested on specific people.
Because there was only like 3 encounters or something like that in the entire game.
Yeah, with Ouroboros, there wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
This is making me realize how much I don't know about Resident Evil.
Yeah, when we have these little tie-ins, it's just like little stuff. It's true. This is past your point of knowledge.
I mean, I'm catching up.
You're catching up.
I don't dive into the lore as hard.
Mm-hmm.
Five's a pretty good game.
Does have.
Yeah. 5's a pretty good game. I definitely like 5 a lot more than 6. I feel like in terms of like the action oriented Resident Evil, I think 5's pretty decent. Obviously I don't like it as much as 4 because that's like my favorite game ever. But I think 5, in terms of like the co-op action Resident Evil games, like 5 was the best it got. Like I thought they did the co-op super well and made it genuinely fun. Like I was shocked by how much fun we had the last time we played that on stream. It was just like, it was a riot. Like that game was over the top in, I feel like, a much more Resident Evil-esque way than 6 was. Like 6 was just constantly like jump the shark ridiculous. Whereas like 5, literally at one point. Whereas like 5, I felt like it still felt like it took place in the Resident Evil world, even if the atmosphere was way different. And plus it was just like, I felt it was just like more, I don't know, just clever and fun about the way it handled its action. Especially those fight scenes with Wesker, which are just brilliant cutscenes.
Oh, absolutely brilliant! Like just actually good cinema.
Yeah, genuinely good cinema right there. Just like the choreography on those is amazing, and the cinematography I actually noticed. If you watch their like cutscenes of 5 and 6 back to back, the cinematography is actually way better in 5 than in 6. But I think that has something to do with the fact that they made like 4 hours worth of cutscenes in 6, so it's hard to put a lot of deliberation, I think, into every single shot on that one. But they had a pretty neat like handheld kind of look for 5. Which I dug. It basically looked like an indie movie. Like an indie monster movie. But yeah, so that Resident Evil 5 era Jill sort of got to make a little bit of a cameo there, gunning for the virus. And
yep. I think I was the only one who actually interacted with her.
Yeah, for the most part. And then you guys had that whole chase where you guys, Scott and Ronan got the virus. You guys chased them onto the streets. I will say all of episode 61, which is titled The Chase, that was a pretty much entirely improvised episode. That was an entire episode that I couldn't have accounted for. Because I think the way it was basically between like 2 of my notes. I basically had it set up where I was like, okay, there's the warehouse, and Scott and Ronan have such survivability that I'm sure they're going to be able to survive whatever happens there, and then probably get away with the virus or retreat if they can't get it.
The warehouse was cake for both our party and their party.
Exactly.
And it was just like, whichever one gets it first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just a race. So I was like, okay, they're going to get out of that, and then they're going to get in their car and they're going to drive. You guys will probably have to drive after them. There'll be a chase scene, and I had the chase scene pretty thoroughly planned out. The problem was, like, Katara blows up their car at the start of the next session. So now all of a sudden they're on foot, and now all of a sudden there's this little intense scenario, like with this cat and mouse whole episode that just got thrown in the middle of my notes. Where I was like, I don't have anything prepared for this. Let's see where it goes.
That's this thing too, because like with that episode, I think I was confused when I think the verbiage you used for getting to the car was confusing, where I was like, oh shit, they're in the car right now, I'm gonna shoot their tire. And I did. And then Katara's like, I'm gonna blow them up. Like, okay, they're like, 10 feet from the car. I was like, wait, I shot their a wheel in their tire, or I shot their tire in their car before they even got in the car. I thought they were already in the car. So like that confused me a bit. I think there was some verbiage you used. I think Katara was also confused. I don't remember. There was some confusion over. I was like, wait, so are they in their car or are they approaching their car? I think in that, because I was like, oh man, I could have just shot him.
No. Well, sorry. I guess that was my fault.
Yeah. No, I think there was just like one word that you used where when you're explaining them like getting to the car and preparing to like leave. I was like, that sounded like they were preparing to leave, like putting the keys in the engine type of preparing to leave.
Oh. Yeah, maybe.
So
I don't recall.
Well, that's how I interpret it. Because like, oh snap, they're already in the car. They've gotten there. They've got freaking ass loads of movement.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna shoot the tire so they can't leave, and give Katara a chance. But then Katara fires before they even get to their car. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. There was that was a whole thing. But then you guys eventually cornered them in a warehouse, and that kind of ended up leading to a pretty significant moment at the end of that episode, which was the death of Sarah, which she didn't end up dying at the beginning of that episode, as she almost did. And yeah, that was I guess we kind of glossed over that bit where she got infected at the end of episode 60, and then just barely got saved at the beginning of the next episod. So she got smacked. So yeah, there was that. I guess there was that whole situation with Ouroboros where that was dogging you guys the whole time, and how well, I guess that Ouroboros got her again, the same creature.
That's true. It came back and finished punching her.
Yeah. But I thought that was pretty satisfying the way it resolved herself. When her back was against the wall, she just like injected herself with the Ouroboros virus, and there was a big kaiju fight that would have happened there. Well, not necessarily kaiju, but a big fight, big monster mash.
That creature was huge or large?
Large, yeah.
Large. It was just 2x2.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess if you didn't have any additional thoughts about that particular sequence, there was the chase scene that came after as well, where you're going down the highway chasing Scott in his vehicle.
There was me and there's Mr. G and Katara in the car, but like Mel hadn't come back to pilot Katara yet.
Yeah,
like he was late for something, and I was like, oh man, like I want to talk to you.
Yeah, we also had a lot of technical difficulties on that night, if I recall as well.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, there was all sorts of jank at first, but still, you guys ended up getting to do the big epic car chase. He was throwing obstacles at you, and I guess by the end of it, you managed to take him out, which I thought that was actually, all things considered, a pretty satisfying end for Scott. The way you just straight iced them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was pretty cool, especially since like you were saying, like there's that whole what do you call it, the warrior spirit mentality that he's got, where he's like, oh, he's like, I always take a fair fight. I'm just like, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I will take any opportunity to backstab you.
And then you just sort of pow right from the hip.
Yep. Not even looking, just like I'm just standing there and just arm up, boom.
Yeah.
And then just wipe the blood off my pants. A little bit of a brain splatter got there. It's like, oh, gotta dry clean that in the morning.
But yeah, so I guess that ended Scott. Which, yeah, again, talking about how a lot of this stuff was sort of originally designed with the intent that Emil was still going to be in the party. It would have been super interesting to see this all play out, because this was sort of intended. Well, obviously, the kind of character you made Emil into very much changed from how this arc was conceived, back at the beginning of the campaign, when he was sort of the moral center of the group. And this arc was meant to be like this whole sort of moral dilemma, basically, for Emil, of just like, his old former comrades pulling him one way towards the dark side, and it was going to be like him like trying to, like a sort of trial of him trying to resist that and trying to being like, you guys have lost your way, but then end up being that. At least that's the way I envisioned it going when it was first conceived. So, but yeah, it would have been interesting to see, I guess, how different things would have been if this ended up being Emil's arc.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that would have been different if Emil was still around and he got like to do my more intended slow burn for turning evil.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, if he didn't specifically have to betray the party at the time that he did, would he still, at this point, like, still just be running around with the party? And if so, like, would he be fighting with you guys against the Manifold as in that same way? Or against, Scott and Ronan and Lopez and whatnot?
That would depend on how a lot of dialogue scenes go.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of Emil who's like who would have started going towards like just trying to figure out his objective, like he found his purpose and all that. Is like, all right, I need to complete this at all costs. In his mind, it's like this is basically the fate of the world type stuff. And then there's his friends who not the party, but like his old friends from the army who are doing their whole thing. So he's like, I can either stick with the party who's going to help me to achieve my personal, go back to my friends who, or try to do whatever this is with because I guess it's his first party.
Yeah, his original party.
Yeah, from back in the day when he was young.
When he wasn't an old man.
Yeah.
When his back didn't hurt.
He wasn't all old and curmudgeonly.
And my hip wasn't acting up in the winter.
Yeah, there's probably an interesting art to be made there of just like a photo of just like Emil with his old crew, and just try to I don't know, their earliest photo together or something back in the army days.
Kind of like that photo of the stars.
Oh yeah, the stars photo.
Yeah,
that classic stars photo where they're all just posing in front of the helicopter.
The Chauncey inspiration photo.
Yeah, that was the
in there
thing. Yeah, Chauncey, that was the photo that originally inspired Chauncey. Was you're just like, I think you just picked someone in the back and we were like, that's Chauncey.
That dude. It was just the dude with the mullet. And I was like, yes, that's Chauncey. That's him right there. I picked like the weirdest looking dude out of the bunch. Like, yep, that's him.
I'm sure he's a named canon character too, because I think all of the Stars members are named. But you're just like sort of just for fun, just like, yeah, that's totally him. That's Chauncey right there.
He was the inspiration for Chauncey.
Yeah.
Mixed with Chris and Barry and
Yeah.
so
You're basically yeah. His
I
cousin or
am
something.
Stars.
Yeah, you're like the well, I guess like you were kind of like he was like a amalgamation of all those tough guy characters from that era of Resident Evil, basically, or so it kind of fits, right? Is that you were like the RPD character? You're just like, oh yeah,
I was the guy that could have been in any Resident Evil.
yeah,
video game.
basically, yeah, I could have been in any of them. Yeah, dude, the friggin' pilot says hi to Rebecca. That could have been you.
Yep.
But yeah, and then just like the mullet was like the thing though.
That was the cherry on top.
Yeah.
It made sense with the time.
The 90s were a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it was like a full on like Van Damme style mullet and
It was intense.
yeah, hard target. Yeah, that was great for one whole era of Chauncey. Although I like that he's rocking the facial hair now. I like the way he's sort of visually changed.
Yeah, I like that he's growing into a respectful, intimidating looking human being. Like he's not like one you're scared of him, but you're scared of him for different reasons. Because not like Mel Gibson crazy back in the day. Like it's like Mel Gibson crazy now. Once you meet him in person, you're like, oh, that dude's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he's like I think you could see he's the kind of intimidating where you could kind of see the experience behind him when you look at him kind of guy now.
Yeah, I went from Lethal Weapon to screaming on voicemail.
Yeah. So I guess after Johannesburg, we had the closing sequence in Iowa with the stateside Des Moines outbreak in the suburbs on Ankeny Road, where Kadar's parents were located. And I guess that was a bit of a different scenario. That was fun building the atmosphere for that one, because
There's a whole lot of atmosphere. It was like real thick fog and stuff.
yeah, some literal atmosphere. Yeah, that was very fascinating. Because a lot of that was definitely still trying to see if we can do atmosphere at this late point in the game where you guys are just so OP, and trying to do that.
I still don't feel OP. I'm ready for being OP, but it's just like it's not there. Like no matter, I could be level 20 right now and still feel like I could get better. It could get better. Let's go.
I mean, you guys thoroughly wrecked all of the combat in that area, but I still feel like it was. I still feel like we managed to build like a little bit of an atmosphere to that area where it kind of had that kind of creepiness to it.
It had a great ambience to it.
Oh yeah, what was that, Isla?
Kind of wish we were there longer, because like I wanted to see if we got like what would happen if we got more madness points.
Oh yeah. You guys weren't there very long. You didn't. I guess do too many triggers to make saving throws for it.
What were the triggers for saving throws? Entering and.
I don't think I'm gonna say.
Oh, there's still a possibility of meeting the fog again. That's what I get whenever I hear. I'm not gonna say yet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say.
Also, just like apparently the freaking Fogman that we fought was just a straight up regular ass infected.
Yeah, I was explaining that afterwards
what?
when you were asking in our chat. We were just like, who was that guy anyway? And I was just like, oh yeah, that was just. I was pointing out how like the BSA would have seen more of them during the cleanup, at least to see if there was any civilians left over. Yeah, those were just the infected residents of all of the houses.
Like, what the heck kind of freaking like BOW pitch meeting is that? Where it's like, all right, everybody, we got the Spectre virus. We're gonna inject it to you, and you're gonna turn into a painting.
You're going to find out that you are paranormal, and you can be as creepy as you want to be.
I don't
Thank
think
you
they
for
told.
mine. See you in
You become a
another.
painting and turn into a fart.
Yeah.
I think they told.
What was that?
I think they told them about the painting part.
No, yeah. There's definitely, well, that's what I kind of liked though, was there's a lot of mystique still about the Spectre virus. You know the name now, but you guys.
Well, we knew the name, but now we have something to connect it to.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think you had heard the name before. But yeah, you guys didn't. But you guys still necessarily know anything scientifically about it, like what this virus is or what exactly it does is still a little bit of a mystery.
They don't leave bodies to medicine check.
Yeah. So that's, excuse me, that's a very fascinating thing. Also, I think also just the first original virus I've done for this campaign as well, which was a whole can of worms. And I guess I could talk a little bit more about the inspiration behind that now, which was I guess came from a number of sources, but mainly it was the Resident Evil 3.5 game, which was a demo for what would eventually become Resident Evil 4, a very early demo that they advertised when it was still a work in progress. And that was a very different game from Resident Evil 4, or at least what it ended up becoming. They kept the character design for Leon, which I guess makes sense because there wasn't really any need to change it. And that has become a pretty iconic look for Leon now, I suppose. And but yeah, in the original Resident Evil 3.5, there's a number of different demos that could have been Resident Evil 4. In fact, they all kind of became different things, right? Like the 3.5, the Hookman one, as they call it, that was a very popular one where they're basically dealing with ghosts and apparitions and lots of sort of psychological, or rather, I guess, delusions and things like that. So, and that was something I took quite a bit of inspiration from, and I loved the atmosphere of that. I loved the design of the enemy, of the ghost with the hook and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. I will say, I think you guys got by that a little bit easier because there was definitely some mechanics that I just completely forgot to use.
Oh no,
that would have helped them a bit, and definitely some survivability things.
You forgot to use Induced Madness?
Yeah, totally. But there was also the small fact, which I don't know if this would have made that huge of a difference in terms of the general fight with them, that they do also grapple on a hit. So Nuria would have gotten grabbed when she got ambushed. So
Oh no.
yeah.
Is it the kind of thing where it's like it hits you and then the hook like bites in?
Yeah, sort of. I guess if you want the visual for it, just look at the Resident Evil 3.5 demo, and you'll see like every time he like engages Leon, it enters into like a grapple sequence, right, where he like grabs him by his hand and he's like trying to like push deeper with the hook, and Leon's basically just wrestling with him. So it's like that sort of situation is how I'm imagining it.
It didn't grapple Nuria when it attacked her then.
That's what I was saying. I forgot. I told you I just forgot.
Oh.
Like just straight up forgot about that part. So yeah, that was my mistake. So there was a couple of things I forgot about. So they'll definitely be a little bit more formidable, or at least as formidable as they were supposed to be if you ever face them again.
Yeah, I'm glad
This whole time we go ahead.
kind of glad you forgot, because otherwise Nuria probably would have been squished.
Possibly. I think you guys rolled better initiative than it though, so you guys would have been able to like help her out.
We also stunlocked it for a good bit with
You
Katara.
also did stunlock it. That's true.
But we all think he's holding his punches, pulling his punches from us, but it's just really him forgetting.
Yeah, I just straight up forgot. Yeah.
He's pulling the punches for narrative purposes. Nah, I forgot.
Yeah, I feel like that happens a lot, especially when I've run a couple of games too.
Yeah,
where it's
there's so much information
like,
on a stat block, you know. It's like
so much where it's just like, oh man, like, you know, that was pretty rough for the characters. Like, looks at the stat block, like, oh shit, I totally forgot to use all their best stuff.
Yeah,
it's like that would have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, you guys, I think, still would have wiped the floor with that regular ghost because that was just a normie enemy. Although fairly tough for a normie enemy, but still
insanely tough for a normie enemy.
Yeah,
it's not a zombie.
Yeah. So that was that. The Resident Evil 3.5 demo definitely was the base inspiration behind the Spectre virus. Yeah. I think in the original conception of the narrative, it was just going to be the progenitor virus essentially. And I think the idea was like Leon was infected with it and it was causing some sort of hallucinations as he was like fighting. And I guess they kind of kept that story thread in Resident Evil 4 where he gets infected by the Plaga and he's kind of fighting against it the whole time and, you know, trying not to lose his will. So yeah, that's probably what led to that. But yeah, they didn't end up going with the hallucinations bit. I guess there was one dream sequence in 4, but that was about it.
What?
Yeah, just in the cutscene when he falls asleep in the cabin, and he just like wakes up. He's like, "Oh, there's a bunch of veins on me," but then he just wakes up from that. But there was, and obviously one of the versions that Resident Evil 4 could have been ended up becoming Devil May Cry 1, and there was also there's this little fan-made game that came out the other year that I referenced when I sort of referenced in the title of episode 63, Madman. There's a little fan-made game called Code Madman, which was...
Yeah, I was trying to... I looked that up when you tweeted. I was like, the heck is that?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was basically just like a fan-made, like, I guess kind of, you know, those like independent sort of horror games, like a little bit of a PT style thing where it's a small setting, like a small section of gameplay that's very variable and there's like different things that could happen depending on what you do or where you go. I've seen some demo play of it. Yeah, it seems kind of interesting and it takes like a lot of different elements from a lot of different versions of early Resident Evil 4 development. So, but I think they don't have the ghost in it, but they also do have a bunch of weird like hallucination type stuff. They have and a whole bunch of really creepy stuff with like looking in mirrors and seeing things behind you. Yeah,
that happened.
Yeah, I guess that did kind of happen. So yeah, this was definitely just, I guess, a little taster though of some of the Spectre virus stuff.
That scares me.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get beyond a point of madness.
It scares me that there's more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's still more to discover about it at the very least. Because you guys, yeah, like I said, pretty much didn't learn anything about how it works exactly. So there's still more questions that need answered. But anyway, from there, you guys moved on to the Oswald residence. At which point Chauncey made his triumphant return.
Yeah, he did.
Rash.
On his great and mighty steed.
My right-hand man, too.
A part of Chauncey probably felt bad about destroying the front entrance of Katara, the parents' house, but then when that creature came in, it's like, oh no, I didn't do anything.
I don't think he felt bad because he was like, he's that man on a mission where he's like, he doesn't realize what damage he's done until the battle's over. So it's
Thinks
like
about it in hindsight.
He crashed through that house, had PGB like drive it back out, and then like once that creature would have destroyed the home, he wouldn't even have remembered that he crashed through the house because his objective was fulfilled to save everybody. And it's like, oh, now looking back at this, how did I get in there? And he just like dusts the front door off of the hood of the car at that point. And still, just keeps going. Like, oh, yeah, well.
He wakes up from a blackout. It's like, what am I doing in Iowa?
like that's the way I like to try to think it is for him. Is like he's in a control blackout. Like he's
in the zone.
In control. Yeah, he's just so tunnel vision. He's just boom in your face. Do this. And then, like, whenever he gets out of tunnel vision because he's no longer in danger and everybody's safe, he'll take a look at everything and be like, oh, well, shit, that looked like an easier path. But I just decided to go through the front door with the car. So,
well, I guess that's an interesting thing you don't think about with action heroes, right? And Chauncey's just one big action hero. It's the collateral damage, but it's like maybe that's the thing with action heroes. They're just not thinking about it at the time.
Yep, that's the way I think it is. It's just they don't think about it till it's over. It's like, what was that movie with the cops where like I think it was The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson were like the heroes, and they go, "Are we gonna jump for the bushes?" And they jumped off the roof of the skyscraper and like splattered on the ground.
Oh yeah, that was the other guys, I think, right?
Yeah, the other guys. That's what it was, with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg or something like that. Or maybe it was. Yeah,
aim for the bushes. Aim for the bushes.
Yeah, aim for the bushes. Aim for the bushes. They jump.
They like jump off a building.
They're ready.
I did not know about
that. I will post a link. You will get a clip.
It's so funny.
Oh, I have not seen that. No, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like action heroes doing action hero things, just not thinking about what the consequences of it like will be. That's Chauncey right there. He just does action hero things and just doesn't think about it until afterwards. And he's like, wait a minute. Probably could have done that a little safer. Oh well. No, yeah, that was fun getting to introduce the bodyguards though. Igor and Vlad.
Rip them.
Rip
Go to
them.
the bottom of the stairs.
They're winners right now.
That's true. You guys kind of adopted them, I guess, like stray tyrants. So I was
keep it.
Yeah, I was really surprised that they're still around, but kind of happy because I like those. They're kind of quirky, these little suited up tyrants that are just walking around. So I guess I said I was going to talk about this. There was a number of inspirations behind Igor and Vlad. So I guess the inspiration for them was kind of threefold. Obviously with the T103 Tyrants, there's a lot of different stuff you can do. I think those are actually pretty versatile BOWs, like a little bit more versatile than they're given credit for. But I think definitely what inspired them was there's this one very specific visual, and I know everybody here knows what I'm talking about, but there was this clip of that Mel shared with the rest of us of this someone playing Resident Evil 2 the remake, and and there was a glitch where I guess they went about it in a certain way where it triggered the tyrant twice.
So what happened was they were speedrunning and they skipped a segment that allowed them to trigger the tyrant in one segment, skip the despawn trigger, and then trigger it again.
Right, yeah. So, and basically what this resulted in, though, was two Mr. X tyrants running around. And there's this moment when you start to realize what's happening when he, like, runs up into the second floor hallway, and he goes to one corner, and he looks down one way, and he sees Mr. X come out the door and start coming at him. He looks down the other way, and another one comes out the other door, and he's looking back and forth, and they're both just walking toward him. That was a visual I specifically loved, and I was like, I want to recreate that visual in a narrative sense, because it's just such a terrifying moment in that video, and I'm like, yes, that's what makes tyrants scary, is when you find yourself in a situation like that and you're about to get sandwiched by two big old tyrants. But these ones,
thankfully, we didn't get sandwiched. Two tyrants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, it's like being between a rock and a hard place.
but they both are intelligent and can punch you.
Exactly.
The thing that I recall saying was like the way you described it though, like the image didn't come across as it was a tyrant. And like I said, was there's that It Follows movie, and it instantly but it was because the atmosphere was like a creepy setting with the fog and stuff. I was just thinking it was just some other weird creature we were about to mess with, not a tyrant. And like just the way you described him, I got that visual. I was like, oh yeah, I'm out.
yeah, you were specifically
Johnson's there, but I'm out.
Yeah, I don't remember if we caught that on stream, but yeah, you said specifically it reminded you of that scene from It Follows where the big old tall dude comes through the doorway.
Yep, just come walking right through the Fred, like, oh
yeah,
shit.
Yeah.
No,
that's such a terrifying moment.
Yep, jump out the window. I wouldn't even have thought twice about it.
Yeah.
I'm a big dude, but I don't mess with ghosts.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if like Michael Myers is waiting for you down there or something. You just jump out the window.
He can catch me. I'll barrel roll out.
So yeah, that was definitely one of the key inspirations was that video. I guess the inspiration for their visuals actually, their specific visual design, was pretty specific. There's actually a specific comic book character that kind of inspired them. I'm not sure if anybody can guess what that is.
The purple and green,
just big old dudes,
blue,
just
dudes?
suited up.
What are you talking about? Freaking, is the colors or the big dude suited up?
Big dude suited up aspect.
So you're talking about what's his freaking name? I don't know, like Mr. Hulk.
Mr. Fix-It, yeah, that was the inspiration behind the visual. Yeah, Joe Fix-It was what kind of inspired that design. Of I was like, yeah, I just want to. I mean, if Hulk can rock it, I want to see some tyrants rock that look, you know. So yeah, I definitely was just thinking purely in terms of Joe Fix-It when I was describing them. So yeah, there was that. So those were the key inspirations. Was the the 2 tyrant glitch from Resident Evil 2 that somebody managed to trigger. There was in that specific video, the way it played out in that video, and then there was there was Joe Fix-It, and there was one other thing that I was thinking of, but I can't remember what it was right now. Oh no. Well, I guess this was where they specifically come in Resident Evil lore, which is the Ivans from Umbrella Chronicles. Which, so I guess getting a little into deep Resident Evil lore, all of the T-103 tyrants are actually clones of this head Umbrella guy named Sergei Vladimir. And he was kind of the head of Umbrella after Raccoon City for a bit until their demise. Yeah. And yeah, big old Russian dude. And it turns out he has like perfect genetics, so they just cloned him to produce all of the T-103s.
Obviously, he's Russian.
Yeah.
All vodka in my blood.
Yeah. So every time you see T-103 tyrant, be it Mr. X or any of the others, those are all just him, genetically speaking and physically speaking.
Well, like that's the thing. I don't know if like it was caught or nobody said anything, but in a conversation Mr. G had with what's his name? I want to not Emmanuel. It's
Manuel.
Was it Emmanuel?
Yeah, Lisa's new character.
Lisa's character.
Yeah, it's Emmanuel.
In the latest at the end of the latest episode, Mr. G was saying something about, I don't remember what the context was, but Mr. G brought up like that he knows where the tyrants come from, and I was like, it's probably some information that he knows at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't remember what we were talking about, but Mr. G was like, oh yeah, I know that happened to a couple of Russians, and looked up at the tyrants. I was like, because I figured he probably has some inside knowledge on like all that security details of the security staff in Umbrella. Yeah.
You'd probably have some base level knowledge there. But yeah, so, and that was the thing is, I guess with Sergei Vladimir, he had the Ivans, which were his tyrant bodyguards that followed him around. And yeah, those were basically a specific type of T-103. I think you looked up the images and you described them as like Daft Punk looking tyrants.
Yeah.
That's basically how it sums them up. Yeah, they were these Daft Punk looking tyrants that were specifically Sergei Vladimir's bodyguards. And I loved the idea of tyrant bodyguards, so I was like, this mafia goon totally has that. I guess your characters don't know it, but I guess I could speak a little bit more to like my headcanon for where these guys come from. So actually, I guess maybe not. I guess there's still room for discovery, especially now that they're still a factor. It's true.
I was gonna say we could just all we need to do is find out what do you call it? Their we need to find their freaking model numbers and just like trace it back to wherever they were made.
Yeah,
like somewhere on them is imprinted a barcode. It's like,
yeah. So yeah, those were the three main inspirations: were the Ivans, that Resident Evil 2 video, and Joe Fixit. And combine that all together, you get freaking Igor and Vlad, the Mario Feliciano's bodyguards. So that was a pretty fun little sequence, especially when Chauncey crashes through the wall and the party really gets started.
It's always whenever I show up that the party starts. Get someone else start the party first.
Although that was a funny little moment when Pete gets punched down the stairs. I don't know why that was so goofy. That was like a slapstick, just like pistol grip Pete moment.
like he just got like slapped in the back of the head going back down the stairs. That time we're just like, pop.
Yeah.
What you doing here, little boy?
So yeah,
it's just funny because it's like he splats like right there in front of Chauncey. Chauncey's like, "Get up, soldier! Let's go!"
Yeah, totally. And that was the thing too. Is well, I guess it was just like, yeah, he just gets splayed out in front of you, just like, oh, let you down, boss.
Such a good right hand failure.
Yeah, but I guess you guys ultimately made pretty short work of them as well. And so I guess while you guys were down, you did a little bit more searching around the house, discovered some more things. I guess discovered a document, which I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Mel's talked about that. I don't know if he wants us to talk about it, if he's intentionally keeping it secret. But I guess there's some stuff that are kind of important to talk about in there.
It might come up over the next year or so.
Might come up. I will say there was one more first degree integration in there.
What? One more?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Hold on.
Well, you didn't see it. You didn't read the document, I don't think.
Oh, in that. Oh, I thought you were talking about in the.
There's mention of Jacques.
Yeah. He's actually still alive and he's inheriting the house.
Oh, I might know what it is.
The will.
Because I wrote the first degree stuff, so I might. I mean, just like going through what the options it could be, I might know. I don't know.
Oh no, it's a pretty small detail, but there's one little reference in there. But nonetheless, you guys find all the materials you need to get down to the basement, at which point you meet, I guess, Mario Feliciano for the first time. And also...
So wait.
Yeah.
Are you hinting at, like, that being canon, then?
What being canon?
What?
It's canon.
First degree?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
No, yeah,
we've established that it's canon.
I must have missed that.
We established it earlier in this same conversation that it's canon.
Damn it. Well, I was kind of sending it in and out. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so first degree is definitely canon, hence why you guys have been meeting these Red Oracle Solutions guys, which is the same Merc company that one of the first degree characters worked for. I think it was Malik was his name or something like that.
Malik.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you guys get down to the basement. You meet Mario Feliciano. You meet his final form too, which that was I guess a little bit of a last minute work we got to do in the last couple of weeks leading up to that. But yeah, that was another awesome artwork from Milo.
Yeah.
Which
Now my question: did you know, Ilo, that this was going to be the boss, or was it?
I think it was titled like the Dawn, or not the Dawn. I saw the title of the image.
oh yeah,
like,
you got
how
the
to use
file.
it.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you got my renamed version of the file though.
Oh,
I don't think you
okay,
got
never
her
mind.
original file.
Okay, that makes sense.
Original file name was like, I think it was like Arc 5 Nightmare.
Yeah, something like that. Because this was like his nightmare form, is how I described it. Because that was kind of the I guess the inspiration there was the basic idea was, you know, he could sort of like control or create any sort of imagery he wills. So this is, I guess, the creature that is his final form isn't necessarily supposed to be like a coherent monster in and of itself. It's rather something that somebody thinks is scary, and thus like a nightmare form, you know, like that is just like him going like, oh yeah, I'm gonna transform into something nightmarish now, you know, and that's what he comes up with.
And I feel like with that final art, I didn't do my concept justice. Like I
wanna
liked
see
my
the concept.
a whole lot better than I liked
Oh,
the
yeah?
final art.
I don't know if I have any of the concept art saved
thing.
right now. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I could show it off in the in this little discourse. No, yeah, I don't have any of it saved.
I also forgot his little spiny things. And I didn't realize that until after I'd sent it to you, and it's like,
Oh yeah, you were gonna give him little spiny spikes.
back anyway.
Yeah. Hold on, let me see if I can. Yeah, I can at least pull it up on Discord here. Stand by.
What is going on out there?
Oh, the mariachi band.
No, they're gone now. I was talking about how we had that we were having the multicultural festival out in the main street outside our place, and I was like, if you hear mariachi bands in the background. Yeah, I sent I think a bunch of pictures of necromorphs as reference, where I was like, maybe something like this, you know, that sort of like kind of disturbing like body horror type of thing, because again, I think that kind of gets at this idea that it's something that a person thinks is scary, right? So I thought necromorphs are a pretty good
What's
reference for that.
necromorph?
Oh, those are the enemies from Dead
I didn't know what
Space.
they were either.
Oh,
Yeah.
See, I-
Great enemies from the Dead Space series.
when I see that character, when I've seen that character, I instantly thought xenomorph. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it had that body and the tail.
Yeah, similar sort of design.
So the document name for the final boss was, where is it? Arc 5 Nightmare Final 2.
There you go. Let me see if I can get this in.
Here we go. Is this it, or is this the first one? First concept. Was this?
Well, we
the
can do all
super-
that after the stream. Searching for
did-
files.
Well, I
I
got it up here. I'm just trying to optimize it for the stream.
Oh, you got
There we
it on
go.
the stream.
There we go. That's it. There's one of
You got it on the
the
stream?
yeah. There's one of the concepts,
Jeez.
and then
It wasn't me.
I don't know what that was.
I know the setup's kind of jank on the stream, but here's a.
And the
Sounds like-
concept
Here's another
on
one.
the Discord as well.
Yeah, so these were some of the early versions.
Ref, do you want me to send the concepts in?
Oh, in Discord, yeah, you can
The-
post them in the Discord for
we can
everyone's
check this out
viewing
later.
pleasure. But yeah, I also wanted to show it off on the stream. Some of these. Yeah, I liked the sort of like scythe-like kind of foreclaws, and the asymmetrical look with like how its like hind legs were very different from its foreclaws.
tail question mark? Yes,
was the
in a
first
question
one
mark
that-
shape. That's what I want. A tail in a question mark shape. Lots of teeth. I like this though. It's like a Fiverr ad. Like, is this what you wanted? Concept 1 done. Now tell me what to do.
But yeah, so you guys got to fight that thing, and well, I guess that's an interesting point, is sort of talking about, I guess, how little you guys know about the Spectre virus at this point in time. I guess is the fact that, and I think I could at least point out this much. This doesn't really. You probably could have intuited this. Is the fact that I guess only people who had at least 1 point of madness had hallucinations, and Mr. G, I think, didn't have any points of madness. I think you were the only person who didn't.
High charisma.
Yeah, higher charisma.
High-ish charisma.
Yeah.
I fought it off though. I fought my madness off.
Yeah, with your own brand of madness. But yeah, so Mr. G
will.
didn't have any madness points. So that means everything that went on in that final encounter with Mario, because Mr. G was seeing all the same stuff as everybody else. There were no hallucinations involved there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, what's that mean?
That means
Yeah, you don't know?
What he said. That means exactly what he said. He could project.
Oh,
It wasn't.
I know now.
Like everything
Don't
else.
ask the right person. Don't ask Raph. He won't tell you.
So what I'm getting from it is that everything was that we got before was hallucinations where it was happening within the person's mind. But whatever this creature was able to do is project its will onto the environment around it.
Yeah. Well, I was getting that it was doing the madness at that point.
Yeah, it was like an environmental effect and not like a hallucination effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because even G was still like,
Yeah, because G didn't have any madness,
Spectator
but
mode.
he still got jumped into spectator mode. Which, speaking of spectator mode, that was an interesting little sequence where he kind of took you guys on a tour down memory lane to show the origins of the Spectre virus.
Mr. G sitting there like, where is this? I've never seen this before in my life.
Like, I just felt like
Whose car is
like,
that?
I subconsciously felt like it was just like Resident Recap all over again. Because I just finished Resident Recap. I was like, yeah. And it was like, oh, I get to go through it again? Yeah.
Oh yeah, let me just transition on. There's a couple of more concepts you put on there, yeah, that I didn't bring up on stream. So let me just show those off. There was one version at one point that had like a little bit of hair, because I think I saw that concept art that was on top there, and I was like, and she was like, yeah, sorry about my whole like chicken scratch sort of look here on these ones, but I was like, it almost looks like it has like a mat of just like Japanese ghost, like the Grudge style kind of like Hisako-esque hair. And I was like, maybe try capitalizing on that, see how that looks. So she did do one concept where it had that full head of hair, and the one after that. But yeah, there was a lot of possible looks we kind of went through before arriving at a final one.
I think he should have went with the pregnant belly though.
I mean, it was still pretty pudgy.
It did have
Yeah,
like
it
a
was
bit
still
of a
pretty funny.
round bottom.
Yeah, it was a bulb.
Yeah, it had like a little bulb at the end. Then it came up to like this really gaunt looking torso, which I thought
got to
was
get
pretty interesting.
Got to get a real good look at that when I was using it for the thumbnail.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I got a real good look at it from underneath.
Yeah.
Chauncey play style. Get up in this thing's face.
Get right
Just
under
go
its
through it,
dangly
guys.
bits.
I'm going through it. It's phasing.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess what did you all think of that? What was that sequence like from all of y'all's perspective?
I'm biased because like I just came back.
That's true.
It wouldn't have mattered if it was a garbage fight. I still would have enjoyed it. So I have to stay out of that one. I did enjoy it, but biased.
I was gonna say, like, that's one of the reasons I feel like I didn't do it justice, because I love that last concept. Like, I couldn't convert it properly into a pose.
The one with the big bellied one, or the
The final one. Like, I tried so many different poses. I was doing like days of poses trying to get one that looked good.
I
When
rather like the
I
art.
feel like it just.
Yeah, I liked how it turned out though. It still looked really good in my opinion.
I think they get better and better each one.
Yeah, I mean they really kind of do. I think
I still like the Don.
Oh yeah, that one was elaborate, but like I feel like this one was a lot simpler and a lot more focused in a way. But yeah, they were both pretty good in their own, I guess, different respects. And there's also this little detail, I guess you could notice, of how it's like seeping out like a little bit of that, Spectre virus smoke coming out of its body.
Yeah. It's got like some vapor trails.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was pretty neat, getting to bring it back to way back when. Well, I guess I should elaborate a bit more on what that was all about for the viewers, in case not everybody either recalls that far, and I also don't recall how much of it was happening on stream and how much of it was happening with stuff off stream, which was so back in Raccoon City. Katara was working on some viruses. So there was the first viral sample that you guys got from the Arclay cabin, and that was a T-virus sample. And she used her home laboratory to work on that, but she rolled terribly on like moving things about and ended up spilling a bit of the virus. But she did use, she ended up spilling most of it, but she did manage to use some of it to create a somewhat viable injection that she could use to, because that was at the point where Mel was starting to look to get into the evolved multi-class. And so I was like, okay, in order to prepare for that, you gotta have Katara go through and create some sort of virus that she can ingest without just becoming straight infected, something that she can survive, and have her do some science to it. So at that point, that was when Katara separated from the group, disappeared into her basement, and used the Arclay cabin T-virus sample to experiment on. And then she didn't roll too well on that, so she ended up creating something super jank and not exactly what she was looking for. But like I gave the criteria. I was like, it might still work. And that was the point when Chauncey came back and was super upset that you lost the one sample that you had, and the sample he wanted to use as evidence. And for that, you guys went to the underground laboratory in search of another T-virus sample, which she also then experimented on to turn into a usable formula that would give her evolved powers. So, oh yeah.
I was like, and I stole that vial.
You tried to. That was what led to the whole, vial stealing scenario where, well, that was a whole can of worms, and definitely some. You also almost got eaten by a worm. That's true. So there was that led to a whole bunch of stuff, but so that was all happening at the time. And then I think she used that sample from the lab, from the Nest labs, to gain her T-virus infection for her evolved multi-class. And then you guys kept the other sample that she had experimented on in the basement as evidence, and kept that in Chauncey's Hummer. And then when you guys went to the university, Moonlight broke into that Hummer and stole the virus and left a note in its place. So that was, I guess, what was specifically in reference there. So the first virus that Katara had experimented on was what got stolen by Moonlight and then handed off to Umbrella, and then got refined over time, and then eventually made its way into the hands of the Manifold.
So does that mean Spectre is T-virus based?
It is T-virus based, but it's like a lot of viruses, it's derived from the T-virus, but has kind of become its own thing.
So
How many
it's not
viruses are-
that she created the Spectre virus and thought it was just some jank shit. Threw it away.
Yeah. That was a bit of a long shot callback of getting back into Raccoon City era of what was going on in the campaign at that time, and that was super fun to bring that back because it was just such a long shot. And I think some people were still wondering whatever happened to that sample.
We were for a while, and then we forgot about it.
Yeah. Well, now you're remembering it now.
A whole lot of other stuff happened.
Yeah. Which I guess for Resident Retrospect exclusive, there's some stuff that I could talk about from way back then now. So this was something I didn't get to say when we were doing the retrospect on the Raccoon City arc. Well, I think I mentioned it a little bit, but didn't get to go into any detail. So in the episode titled Rebirth, where Katara gets infected and becomes officially evolved, that was a huge, I guess, campaign turning moment, obviously.
So yeah.
And just a huge roleplay moment, and there was basically two possibilities that I was prepared for, and both were pretty drastically different, and both would mean drastically different things for the future of the campaign. So one was either she failed to create the refined T-virus formula in the Nest labs, or some other thing happened where you're not able to do that, then she would still have the Spectre virus sample that she could use. But yeah, so there was that, and then there was the T-virus sample, but there was a whole pre-written sequence of when she first injects herself, and what she goes through in that moment. And there was actually
was that big like speech that you?
Yeah, that big speech.
The whole like cutscene, basically.
Yeah, that whole cutscene where immediately after she injects herself, I go through and describe what's happening. But the thing was, there was two entirely different pre-written cutscenes there, depending on which sample she used to infect herself. And basically, if she did use the Spectre virus.
Or what would become the Spectre virus, at least?
Yeah, what would become the Spectre virus, she would still get her evolved features, but her infection origin would be different. And she wouldn't get like the normal, immunities to like T-virus damage and all that. But she would still have, that infection origin, damage immunity. So she really wouldn't have known what she was infected with until such a time that you come across the Spectre virus naturally, and she realizes that she doesn't take necrotic damage from these things. Because I think either way, no matter what happened, there was still going to be
a really, really long shot.
That would have been a huge long shot, because it would basically be a thing in the background where she'll basically be wondering for a while, like when is this going to become relevant? When am I going to find out what I'm infected with, or rather, when am I going to find out something that I'm immune to?
Base infection, anyway.
Yeah, for her base infection. So,
because she can always add infections on top of it, but she can never change her base infection.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, you always have that. So that would have been a whole different story that would have been involved there. But I was wondering if I should read that out here, the other one, now that you guys have heard what the alternative was.
Might as well.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that.
Used again.
Yeah, it can't get used again.
It's not like something that you can always recycle and use for later. It's like that is very specific and cannot be used again.
Yeah. Yeah, let me see if I can find it here. But I guess if there was anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to that final battle, now's your chance.
Nuria succeeding on that wisdom save.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. I think Chauncey sort of,
what was it, like a banish?
yeah, a banishment basically type of thing. I think Peanut kind of misinterpreted it as like going on vacation, I think is what he described it as. And I was like,
you went to a beach.
well, that was the thing, is like, I think he kind of misinterpreted that, and everybody kind of went along with it with like the sort of beach visual, but the idea was, it was still, I think it's because I used the term island to describe what you were on, but it was basically the same thing as what you were currently on, in terms of like this piece of rock just floating through space. But you were like, basically you perceive that you're on one by yourself, away from the party, like you're on like just some rock floating through space away from everybody else, was the idea.
I'm picking up what you're putting down now.
Yeah.
See, I was just thinking she was banished to like a paradise, like almost like what is it, Gilligan's Island or something, you know, like that's not that bad.
No, yeah, it wasn't like that.
Exiled, yeah, she was gonna be exiled. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not bad exile. Like Captain Jack Sparrow can escape with just rum. You're good. You're good to go.
Okay.
You got it?
Yes, I do got it.
Was it like episode freaking?
It was
20 or something?
episode 11 is what it
Episode
was.
11?
Yeah, episode 11 was Rebirth, which is kind of crazy. That was so. Well, what's the difference there? 54 episodes ago, this was the possible first appearance this virus could have made.
Was that episode 75 was the last one?
65 was the last one.
Oh, okay. Never mind. My math was off. My bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's 75. That's dope. We made 75 already.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just read it out performance-wise the way I would do it if it just happened. So I guess the script went a little something like this. Katara. The room grows darker and darker around you. For a moment, you wonder if this is what death looks like. To your sight, it seems almost like falling asleep. Except your eyes don't feel weak. They feel wide open. Nonetheless, everything darkens and darkens until eventually, nothing. The rest of you see her once green eyes gloss over black. It starts in the whites and moves like a cloud over her irises and pupils, until eventually both sockets are as dark as night. Some fog begins to gather on the floor around her. For a second, you think your minds are playing tricks on you in this intense situation, but given a few moments, it becomes clear there is a smoke billowing out from the long white sleeves of her lab coat. Katara, you see darkness, an empty void. Eventually, you realize it's not just your sight. You wave your hands, feeling for ground, but there is none below you. All of your senses seem to reflect this rather vivid hallucination. The darkness is soon broken up by a white mist which comes to envelop you. It's peaceful, almost serene, floating here endlessly. One could almost stay forever. But eventually your mind wanders back, and so does the mist. It moves suddenly as if caught by a strong gust of wind before settling in front of you. You now see colors, shapes, and patterns in the mist like you would if a projector were shining onto it. You see your house, the Oswald residence. You see your parents who you believe are out there somewhere, who you want to see again one day. And then I would also interject to see if there's anything else she sees. I had a similar sort of moment for the T-Virus version. And then seeing these things, you realize your work is not yet done. And by sheer force of will, the mist moves, dragging you upwards. Looking up, you see a ray of light peeking through the break in the canopy of darkness. You move higher, higher, until finally the light is so close that it's blinding. And out of that blindness, your eyes adjust. The rest of you see her back arch off the ground as she gasps for air as if resurfacing above water. And the black gloss fades as her green eyes reappear. So, That's what could have happened.
See, we wouldn't have known what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
With reference of what we know now, it's like, oh man, that's a Spectre virus.
Yeah, exactly.
Did Mel know he could have taken the Jank virus?
Yeah, I think he knew. I made that clear to him, but he specifically wanted to try and refine that T virus to get that T virus sample, especially since I was super practical in that arc that you guys were in.
Yeah, I remember there was a bit where I think like Mel was talking about how like there is that other option, but it was like, I'm not even gonna try it.
Yeah, he was like, it was so, I think, uncertain to him that I don't think he was down with the uncertainty. So and you guys did manage to get the T virus sample refined, so you did manage to get that, and then the Spectre virus got stolen, leading to this whole conundrum that you have now. So
was it the Spectre virus, or was it what was used to make the Spectre virus?
Both, but it was like close enough where like the leap that Katara made from the T virus to that was basically, you know, it's like creating a new species, right? So it's like it was already the new species, and then the version of the Spectre virus that you have now is still closer to that than any other kind of virus. So she would have, again, her Spectre virus would have made her, you know, immune to this virus once you encounter it now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it would have been very interesting because I was basically, yeah, there was a whole alternative version of this campaign where I would be using a lot of Warlock type plot hooks, you know, to sort of tease it. Like basically everything, all of her evolved powers would have been flavored to have like dark mist and stuff like that. So, and things like that, and like the way I would describe some of the usage of her evolved powers would have basically reflected the aesthetic of the Spectre virus.
Would we have encountered Spectre not earlier per se, but like would they have popped up earlier because of this hook?
Possibly, yeah. I think I probably would have made a bit more effort to make it like become a little bit more pertinent earlier.
And
I
Mel's
think it's funny though. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
He's gonna be pissed when he finds out that he could have had the Spectre, because I know he was really disappointed that he couldn't get it.
Oh yeah.
Well, we just have to get it from the manifold after we beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it's ironic that she created helped create the virus that tried to kill her parents.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the sort of, I guess, the moral conundrum that was at play there. That you know, Mario was kind of trying to guilt her into, is just like, yeah, this is your fault. And I guess I can now say also there was some other hints of it as well. Like when you guys met Walker for the first time, he said that her legacy would be stained with blood. And that was at least that was my intention. That was specifically what he was referring to, was he knows that she made the Spectre virus, and that, you know, he has this dangerous weapon that basically has her name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I really wish he was here right now.
I know. We'll have to make a watch this last segment, because there's some. So these are some of the revelations that I was excited to get to.
Especially that read through.
Oh yeah, that read through. Yeah, especially. But yeah, this is going up on YouTube on Monday, so you'll definitely have a chance to.
There's also, as I found out earlier today, it's someone's birthday.
Oh yeah.
Wait,
wonder who that is. No, yeah, my birthday's coming up on Monday.
Oh, hey, happy early birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, October 14th. So
2019.
Well,
he's not even born yet.
Be reborn.
Yeah, maybe.
You get a birthday every year? Man, I only got one of those.
But yeah, so that's gonna be fun. We're probably gonna just go eat out and stuff. And also El Camino came out this weekend, so I'm super excited about that. That's the
we're gonna
big.
watch that for sure.
We're gonna watch the heck out of that.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet?
Haven't watched it yet because I haven't had the chance to. But
Our movie night is tomorrow.
exactly, yeah,
You guys have moved it around because the whole Saturday thing.
yeah. Schedules
And work, and-
all mixed around.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, I guess after all that sort of concluded the arc after you defeated Mario. I will say him too, in addition to the ghost, also totally forgot to use a bunch of dope stuff with him. So
man.
also
You forgot to use Induce Madness?
again, yeah.
Everything can drive you mad here.
I mean, really though.
No, yeah, there's definitely a lot of really basic tools that I totally forgot to use that would have extended their survivability perhaps a bit more.
I liked their that was not the first time we've encountered legendary actions, was it?
Legendary resistances, you mean? Or
No, legendary actions.
legendary
I think we
actions,
have-
no, yeah, you've encountered those a ton. The Tyrant was the
Yeah.
first thing you met with a legendary action in in the very first arc. The final boss of every arc has had legendary actions.
Right, yeah.
And
But that was, but so legendary resistances was
legendary resistances, I think Don
'cause that fight
Feliciano
was harder.
was the first guy with legendary resistances that you met.
Oh man, so that that's one hell of a. I wouldn't have been even able to charm him if I tried. Like literally
Yeah.
immune to charm, way too much HP, and can choose to save.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, he was the first one. Although in hindsight, because I didn't use all of I guess all the legendary resistance guys are all Felicianos. I didn't get to use Mario Feliciano's all of his legendary resistances. And in hindsight, I probably should have used more of those because I know it's considered a bit of a waste, to some extent, to use them just to have damage. But I realized, because ideally, strategically, the GM's supposed to save those for the things that could end the fight in one save. But then I realized after a while, it's I don't know if this party necessarily has anything like that.
No, we don't have that. Well, first of all, also
Except
because
for-
there's not too much magic.
Yeah, it's true. Nothing that hardcore, I guess, in the science casting.
Yeah.
But maybe Nuria's freezing stuff is the closest you get, but I don't think she had any of those at that
Yeah,
time.
one.
Oh, did you have one?
What about the rocket launcher?
Well, the rocket launcher, the thing about the rocket launcher is that I think is just the special rocket launcher, at least, that they give you for the that I've been given for the final bosses will just kill it instantly if they have less than 100 hit points. So
Death.
actually power word kill is what you're thinking of.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powered kill.
To answer your question,
like-
I had two.
Oh, you did have to. Oh yeah, well if you use those, and he failed, then he would have just
I
got
think
to use
he
his
used-
last two legendary resistances.
She used.
This
she used
wasn't
one,
a
right?
good opportunity because Chauncey got beat down halfway to a pulp.
Yeah.
So I tried to heal him, rolled terrible on the heal
Yep.
to
Emil
give him
healed me.
resistances so he didn't die. That ended up being useless because the thing didn't get to hit him again.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I guess there was no predicting that outcome. Although I think the cryogenic formula also still does decent damage even if you don't get the freeze. I mean, obviously, I don't think
Yeah, I
it's
know.
it's not
But I was so focused on making sure Chauncey didn't die that I didn't actually get to attack the creature.
That's true. I think that was a 3-round fight. It went by pretty fast.
It did go by fast.
Yeah, and like I said,
That's what happens
that was partly my fault for forgetting some of his features and also not using all of his legendary resistances to just have all the damage he was taking.
Especially the damage from G, because G only does one attack and does almost as much damage as Chauncey if he on an average turn for Chauncey.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
with Mr. G dumping all damage into one attack, that's a good one to have.
yeah, well, but with he can't resist those though.
What do you mean?
He can't use his legendary resistances against your.
Oh, is it just for
Sneak attacks.
Wait, so
It's just for saving throws.
That's what I was wondering. Then how are you having damage? You just talking about having damage on saves?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Because using it to have the damage from the grenade launcher is what I'm talking about.
Oh, for the grenade launcher specifically.
Yeah. I was saying, like, he still had a ton of legendary resistances left, and I'm just saying, like, in hindsight, I probably should have just used those to have grenade launcher damage, even though, you know, just because it's like there was nothing else he would have used that on.
No, because you were just saying have damage. I was like, oh snap, he can use it to just straight up have damage?
No, it was specifically to succeed saves against the grenade launcher. Yeah. Yeah, you can't just have any sort of damage.
Can't now in my books.
New rules.
New rules.
The Lauren rules.
Legendary general resistances.
Yeah, it's like I just resist that damage.
You know, that sounds super intuitive when you put it like that. It is literally called resistances, so I mean, now it just feels like that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right?
It is the way it's supposed to be.
Except for a first spell.
Just don't remember it for next time.
Yeah.
Tired of spending all my ammo and getting halved all the time. And no, they don't take that. You just shot through it.
Although looking at his health points ticking down, those hit points, it's like it's still ridiculous the amount of damage that Chauncey can do, even with resistances. Like with resistances, that just brings him down to just not stupid, ridiculous, ending fights in one round.
He has 4 attacks?
Yeah, you got four attacks twice because he's at a point now where he has a couple action surges. So yeah, he's doing ridiculous amounts of damage.
So 4 attacks in 2 turns.
Yeah, basic. Or
so with
8 attacks in across 2 turns at one point.
How's that work?
Because he has 2 action surges.
Yeah, but he's only got 2 attacks per action.
Exactly. So 4 attacks in 1 turn, 4 attacks in another turn when he uses his other action surge.
Yeah, 8 total attacks over 2 turns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I must be fucking up on the math somehow.
Well, because he has 2 attacks normally, so he uses the 2 attacks.
On an
Then he action surges for another 2 attacks. Yeah. Yeah, he uses action to attack twice, then he action surges for another 2 attacks for 4 attacks in a turn.
I get it.
But I also have to use a magnum to do that kind of damage, just so everybody knows.
Well, like
so that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say is over 2 turns, you're still doing the damage like with your. If you hit, your action serve is basically acting as if you did normal attacks without resistance.
Yeah, essentially, to some extent, yeah. And then when the Magnum comes out and just ignores the resistances, that's even more ridiculous damage.
Yeah, get pierced. But also magnums. Am I allowed to dual wield magnums? I just want to look badass.
I can't recall if they're light. I don't think they are.
I don't think they are.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, you can hold them in each hand and attack individually on different turns.
It's true. You can still hold them.
Quick draw. So like, can we just like flavor it as I'm carrying 2?
Well, your quick draw,
I'm only allowed to use 1 anyways.
Your quick draw, the way it would work is you could have 3 magnums and firing each one of them in succession.
It's true.
I mean,
I
so want that and 2 boomsticks next on my back. Just like whatever battle we're going into, that's what I plan on looking like.
Because the magnums, I'm looking at it. Yeah, they're not light, which means you can't use 2-weapon fighting, but you can still. They're not 2-handed either, which means you can still hold them like in each hand and attack with both of them.
If you had enough,
you just can't use
basically free reloads.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, it's essentially just getting rid of the need to reload.
I already don't need to reload.
That's true for bonus action. Yeah, for you. So, but for flavor wise, you can hold the 2 magnums. Is I guess as far as you can get.
Flavor.
Yeah. Nothing stopping you from doing that. You just won't be able to make a bonus attack with the offhand one.
Can you take 1 attack or 1 attack action and use individual attacks to use different magnums?
Yeah, you could.
If you get
Also-
dual wielder, then you can dual wield the magnums.
Oh yeah, I think
Yes.
the dual wielder feat allows you to wield non-light weapons. Yeah, so with the
Yeah.
dual wielder feat, you could. The universal
Ooh.
feature.
I don't think it. Oh, hey, what's up, buddy? My son just scared the shit out of me. But
No, it's
this
non
coming
non-light.
level, I might be able to dual wield some heavy shit.
You still can't dual wield like two-handed weapons.
Yeah, the exception
Right.
is
Just
as long as they're not
Yeah.
two-handed weapons.
Just wait.
is there any heavy one-handed weapon?
There is actually. I was
Magnum?
just scrolling by it.
Yeah, it's got to be a sawed-off shotgun pistol grip.
Oh, freaking Hydra.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
What happened to the Hydra? It's gone.
Well, I dropped it off at the base, I think.
No, you
when
dropped
we-
it off at the dealer in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got it back, right?
No.
Oh, right. No, I got the armor, I think. I got something. Yeah, because I feel, that was what I felt really shitty about, because I was like, just like, like I should have been here with the team the first time around, to go shopping. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this really quick because it's just, I didn't know there was going to be a whole lot of time, or not, I didn't know there was not going to be a whole lot of time between Johannesburg and the next thing. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to come back here and do this, complete the quest really quick. And, unlock the what do you call it? Reward, so that to come back later. And I was like, oh no, I have to do this now or it's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna have to go back. Yeah, so I have to go back and kill them later. But like, that's just adding a whole nother extra step.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to see how that plays out.
G.
Plays out next arc.
First order, Mr. G, gotta go. Like he isn't even left Iowa completely. He's already got a ticket to go back to. I gotta go handle.
I've got some plans for Johannesburg, but like,
Oh.
I
You gotta tell me about it so we can go fight.
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, you might be fighting for me.
Yeah, there we
say
go.
I wanted to own that place.
I'll be the reigning champ. They'll have like a like my Hulk face on the wall.
Yeah, you kick out the dude with the dragon tattoo and bring in the dude with the panther tattoo.
Yeah,
And tattoo rules all.
that's true. I gotta see an artwork now of Chauncey just like ripped,
Like,
shirtless Chauncey.
Oh, how ripped are we talking about?
I want to see like Super
talking phone
Saiyan
books.
ripped, but no, like I don't want him to look like. Obviously, he's not like The Rock kind of ripped, but like something along the lines of like if The Rock let go for a few months. It just got a little bit of a gut, and like it's not as chiseled, but like you feel like if you hit them, you're gonna hurt yourself.
I've already got like one half shirtless character art to do. Am I gonna have to do another one?
Hey,
Yeah, but
that's
it's not gonna be
don't
half
tell them about my
shirtless.
character.
It's full shirtless.
Well,
There's no shirt.
I think you
If
described.
it is, it's torn to threads, like whisker style art.
Yeah, when you were trying to figure out, I think, how much Chauncey weighed, and you were like looking at his how his height and weight and whatnot, and I think you're trying to figure out like what was like a good build for him, and I think you described, or the weight you ended up going with him, I think you said was Chris Pratt and Guardians of the Galaxy was the height and weight combination that you use, and I was like, that might be a reference for how ripped we're talking here.
Yeah, like it's still got dad bod ass. No,
Yeah, exactly.
No, not that kind of dad bod. Pop belly.
So I'm gonna post that in the
Add
Twitch chat
Chauncey
real
to my
quick.
list of-
Looks like he's pregnant. Like his belly button popped out and everything.
What was that, Ilo?
Time to add Chauncey to my list of half shirtless buff people.
It's not half shirtless. It's full shirtless.
Shit.
I I want him
Oh,
Super
just rip
Saiyan.
his
I want
shirt
that aura around him like he's charging up. Like,
Also, here's let me throw in that art or that image that Lauren just shared on the stream. Just like have that. That's.
But yeah, Dad Bod Pro.
Yeah, Dad Bod Pro.
I don't want the Dad Bod Light.
All right.
And then, like I have a lot of like weird ideas, like just like action, like because he's an action hero. I have action sequences set up for Chauncey at all times, like waiting for these moments. Like when you first told me, yeah, come on in, because I did that little pitch just to give everybody an idea of what Chauncey's feeling. This was before I even asked you if I could even come back in to save the day. It was with that whole airdrop. Like, please just airdrop me in.
Yeah, you're talking constantly about getting airdropped.
You were like, yeah, come on in. I was like, oh man, he's not ready. He's not ready for this because I'm driving Betty through houses if I have to. And that's what I did. I was like, I was hoping for like a street battle, like they were gonna like take it out into the street, and I was just gonna come out of nowhere and like hit some ramp and just run it over. Yeah, it's just like, oh shit, it's Chauncey. Like barrel roll out, car still just going down the street. I'm just shooting stuff. PGP's holding on for dear life. Like, I don't know.
It's like the freaking.
I didn't sign up for this.
It's like the opening credits of DMC5 all over again.
I was trying to drop like subtle hints like that I had PGP with me without saying PGP. So I was like, oh, it's the co-pilot. Like, oh, my co-pilot.
You joined voice chat for that session. I was like, wait a second. This happened before.
I like to be sneaky, but there's only so much you can do.
Disadvantage on stealth, so it's too hard to be sneaky.
Maybe if you just showed up in the side room instead, they wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, they'd have never known. I think my whole thing was I was having troubles running this. I told everybody I was having troubles running with the stream or something before that. I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit in the chat instead of in the stream.
I don't even remember.
I'm here.
Well, anyway, I suppose that sort of wraps up our discourse on Arc 5 of Resident Roleplay, the Gathering. So we best wind things down here. So we'll be back. We'll continue on our hiatus for another month or so while we prepare for the next arc, Arc 6 of Resident Roleplay, which I have actually established with the players is going to be the final arc of the show. So that's going to be a whole thing, but hopefully we could send it out with a bang. And it saddens me to no end, but it's been time. So I'm definitely going to be doing probably a more formal announcement outside of this as well later on, of talking and sort of discussing about that and bringing the show to a close. But we have huge ambitions for this next arc, and I'm super excited to see what it all leads to. Hopefully it ends up being a nice and exciting conclusion to this campaign and to this party's story. At least conclusion for now. We'll still probably be doing some revisitation in the future, but at least bringing the show to an end.
Specifically the show as a regularly scheduled program.
Basically, yeah. But
we can always come back to it.
Yeah.
A new weekly thing.
Oh, I can get my campaign going.
But yeah, maybe you might have that opportunity afterwards. I don't know.
The whole reason we're stopping is because I can't.
That's also true. That's part of the reason. Yeah,
well, obviously not the whole reason, but it's because schedules are conflicting. So it's like I can't start a campaign because the reason we can't continue the campaign is because we can't have a campaign.
Yeah, it's tough. But again, there'll be more on that coming soon. Stay tuned. But we've got huge ambitions for next arc. It's looking to be really exciting. I'm really just jazzed about getting to this point in the story that we are now coming upon. And there's also going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be going on between arcs during this hiatus. Actually, we have a lot of cool videos we're working on, and also some cool one-shots that are coming up as well. I think a couple weeks from now, two Saturdays from now, is going to end up being when I run my Wuxia one-shot. So now I was supposed to run it during the last hiatus, but didn't end up happening. It's happening
themed adventure.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be happening this time. So look forward to that. But next week we will be off air. We don't have anything scheduled for streaming next Saturday, so just sort of taking that time off and taking some time for ourselves, and also probably working on a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, exciting stuff ahead. Stay tuned. Until next time, though, we'll see you all later. Peace. Squared. Have a good night. God bless.
Good night, who dreams all the good things.